The first time the hospital called, my son looked at the screen and let it ring until it stopped. I was on one knee in his kitchen, with a drill in my hand and a cabinet door resting against my shin. Evan's phone buzzed across the quartz counter, nudging a bowl full of lemons that looked too perfect to eat. Mercy General Hospital. Evan glanced at me. He knew I'd seen it. He turned the phone face down. If it's serious, they'll call again. He said it the way you might talk about a salesman trying twice during dinner. Then he opened the refrigerator, stood there letting the cold air spill around him, and said, "Hey, before you leave, can you text me Mom's pot roast recipe? Tessa told her parents I'd make it Sunday." For a second, I honestly thought I had misunderstood him. "Your mother's pot roast? The one with the onions and the gravy. Not the dry one she made at Christmas. That was brisket. Whatever. The good one." The phone started ringing again. Same number. Evan sighed before he even looked at it. That sigh was the part I kept hearing later. Not the ring. Not the question about the recipe. That small, tired sound my son made because his mother's hospital had interrupted him twice. I set the drill down. "Answer it. I'm working, Dad. You're standing in front of an open refrigerator. I was working before you got here." He shut the door harder than he needed to. Evan was 39 years old, 6 feet tall, and still capable of looking 16 when he felt accused. He had Linda's dark eyes and my habit of tightening his jaw before saying something unkind. The phone kept ringing. "You know she's there this morning," I said. "I know she has a test, a cardiac stress test. She's had tests before." The ringing stopped. The kitchen seemed to get larger around us. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, a smoke detector gave one tired chirp. Evan picked up his coffee. The mug said, "World's okayest husband." Tessa had bought it for him as a joke, though I'd never been sure which one of them was joking. "You're already going to the hospital," he said. "What do they need me for?" "I don't know. That's why people answer phones." He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Dad, I have been doing this with her my entire life. Every headache is a brain tumor. Every time her heart skips, everybody has to stop what they're doing and stand around watching her breathe." I looked at his phone. "They called from the hospital. Evan." "She didn't call you from the couch. She probably asked them to. That was possible. Linda could turn a weather advisory into a family conference. Once, when a water main broke 3 streets away, she called both our children to tell them not to drink from their faucets. Mara lived in Colorado. Evan was at a hotel in Atlanta. But Linda had also woken beside me 2 weeks earlier with one hand pressed to her chest, whispering that the room felt tilted. I'd watched the pulse jumping in her neck. She made me promise not to tell Evan until the doctor knew more. "He'll just think I'm being dramatic," she'd said. I had told her Evan was busy. It was the sort of sentence I'd been saying for 20 years, as if busyness were a weather system that settled over one member of a family and excused him from whatever happened underneath it. That morning, Linda had gone to Mercy General wearing her blue cardigan because hospitals were always cold. She'd packed a paperback, peppermint candies, and 3 insurance cards, 2 of which had expired. I was supposed to meet her when the test ended. Then Evan called. The cabinet above his refrigerator had pulled halfway off the wall. Tessa's parents were coming from Richmond for the weekend, and apparently they would inspect the upper cabinetry before agreeing to eat. "It'll fall on somebody," Evan had said. "Don't open it. I already emptied it. Then leave it alone until Monday." There had been a pause. "Tessa's going to be upset." That sentence still worked on me, even when I knew it shouldn't. I'd loaded my drill and anchors into the truck. Linda said I had time. "Go," she told me. "Save your son from the terrifying consequences of a crooked cupboard." She kissed my cheek in the hospital drop-off lane. Her mouth was smiling, but her fingers stayed wrapped around mine until an orderly approached with a wheelchair she didn't need. My phone was nearly dead, so I left it charging in the truck. That decision would bother me for a long time. Not because it was unreasonable, because most of the choices that hurt people are reasonable when you make them. At Evan's townhouse, I discovered the cabinet had been fastened through drywall with 2 short screws, and what appeared to be decorative optimism. I was halfway through explaining this when his phone rang. Now the cabinet door lay between us. Evan pointed at it. "Can we finish one crisis at a time?" I stood up slowly. My right knee clicked, loud enough for both of us to hear. "That's not a crisis," I said. "Mom might not be either." He regretted it. I could tell by how fast he picked up the mug. For most of his life, regret had been enough to get him rescued. He didn't apologize. He looked sorry. and somebody else built the bridge, usually me. I slid the drill into its case. What are you doing? Going to your mother. Okay, fine. I'll call her later. She may have been trying to reach you. She has your number. My phone's in the truck. So call when you get there. He followed me into the narrow hallway. The townhouse smelled like coffee, sawdust, and the citrus cleaner Tessa used on everything. There were framed photographs along the wall. Evan and Tessa in Charleston. Evan and Tessa on a boat. All four of us at Linda's 60th birthday. In that one, Linda was holding the cake she had baked for herself. Dad, come on, don't do this. I stopped with my hand on the front door. Do what? Make it into a statement. I'm leaving. You're leaving the cabinet on the floor. Don't put it back up without longer screws. He gave a short laugh with no humor in it. This is exactly what I mean. You and Mom decide something is urgent, and if I don't react correctly, suddenly I'm a terrible son. I didn't say you were a terrible son. You didn't have to. No, you did that part yourself. That landed harder than I intended. His face changed. I wanted to take it back. The words had barely left my mouth, and I was already reaching for the familiar tools. A softer phrase, a hand on his shoulder, some reminder that everybody gets frustrated. Then he said, "Can you at least send the recipe?" I stared at him. He lifted both hands. Not now. Later. Your mother is in the hospital, and you're asking what she can still do for you. It's a recipe, Dad. No, it's her standing over a stove for 5 hours so you can walk in late, eat, and take the rest home. Nobody makes her do that. There it was. The sentence people use when they've enjoyed years of somebody else's effort, but don't want to owe anything for it. I opened the door. Behind me, Evan said, "Tell her I'll call tonight." I didn't answer. Outside, the sky had that flat gray color Virginia gets before rain. My truck sat along the curb under a maple that had dropped wet leaves across the windshield. When I opened the driver's door, my phone was still connected to the charger. 7 missed calls, 4 from Linda, 2 from Mercy General, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. My stomach went cold. I called the hospital first. A woman answered with the careful, neutral voice people use when they know panic is waiting on the other end. After I gave Linda's full name and date of birth, she transferred me twice. I stood beside the truck, listening to hold music while rain began tapping the roof. Finally, a nurse named Colleen came on. "Mr. Mercer, your wife is stable. Stable is a word that carries its own shadow." What happened? Mrs. Mercer developed an abnormal rhythm during the test. The cardiologist wanted to perform a transesophageal echocardiogram before deciding whether to proceed with cardioversion. "We were trying to reach you for consent and medical history. Is she awake?" "She's awake now. She's understandably upset. I'm 15 minutes away. Please drive safely. Nobody says that unless they think you won't." I got into the truck and reached for the ignition, then saw Evan standing in his open doorway. He had his arms crossed against the rain. For 1 second, I thought he might come down the steps and ask what happened. Instead, he called, "Is she okay?" I could have told him. I could have said, "They need us." And he might have climbed into the passenger seat. I've wondered about that moment more than once, whether the next few months would have been different if I had handed him another bridge. But I looked at him standing dry beneath the little roof over his door, waiting for me to convert what he'd done into manageable information. "She's stable," I said. His shoulders dropped with relief. "See," he called back. "I knew it." I shut the door and drove away. At Mercy General, I parked crooked across 2 spaces and had to correct it because Linda would notice, even from a cardiac unit. The lobby smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. A television mounted near the ceiling showed 2 people arguing silently beneath closed captions. At the cardiac desk, a receptionist slid a visitor sticker toward me. "Room 412. The elevator took forever. A man beside me held a vase of yellow flowers and stared at the numbers as if he could move us faster through concentration. I watched my reflection in the metal doors. My hair was damp. There was sawdust on my shirt. I looked like I had come from the wrong emergency. Linda was propped in bed beneath a heated blanket. Her blue cardigan had been folded into a clear plastic bag with her shoes. Wires ran under the collar of her hospital gown. She looked smaller without her clothes, without her purse, without a kitchen around her. Colleen stood beside the monitor. She was a square-built woman with silver glasses and a pen tucked into her hair. "Your wife gave us some excitement," she said. Linda looked at her. I apologized. "You did." We prefer boring patients, but we work with what we get. The nurse explained the rhythm, the imaging, the medication they'd used. I nodded as if nodding could make up for not being there. Linda watched me the whole time. When Colleen left, I pulled the chair closer. I'm sorry. Where were you? At Evans, the cabinet? I nodded. She shut her eyes. Of course. I left my phone charging in the truck. I called 4 times. I know. They asked if there was somebody else. I gave them Evan's number. My hand tightened around the plastic arm of the chair. Linda opened her eyes. Did they reach him? This was where I normally would have helped. I had a dozen versions ready. His phone was on silent. He was in a meeting. The hospital might have entered the number wrong. I could smooth the morning flat enough for her to lie on it. She saw something in my face. Frank. He saw the calls. The monitor kept marking her heartbeat in green. And he didn't answer. Linda looked toward the window. Rain had begun streaking the glass, bending the parking lot into gray lines. What was he doing? I could have spared her that part. He was asking me for your pot roast recipe. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then she gave one small nod, as if somebody had finally confirmed a diagnosis she'd suspected for years. He doesn't miss me, she said. He misses being mothered. I didn't know what to say to that, so I straightened the edge of her blanket. Linda hated crooked things. Picture frames, tablecloths, the bath mat after I stepped out of the shower. For years, I had accused her of believing symmetry could prevent disaster. Now she watched me line up a hospital blanket with the mattress and didn't tell me I was doing it wrong. Her phone sat on the tray table beside a sweating cup of water. The paperback she'd packed was underneath it, unopened. Did you give him the recipe? She asked. No. That wasn't what I asked. I know. A cardiologist came in before she could say more. Dr. Patel was young enough that Linda would later ask whether he was old enough to rent a car. But in the hospital, she listened to him with the solemn attention she usually reserved for priests and plumbers. He pulled a rolling stool close to the bed and showed us lines on a tablet. Linda's rhythm had returned to normal after medication, but the episode wasn't something he wanted to dismiss. He recommended keeping her overnight, changing one of her prescriptions, and arranging a follow-up to discuss an ablation if the episodes continued. Can I go home today? Linda asked. I'd rather you stay where we can monitor you. I have a roast thawing. Dr. Patel glanced at me. She doesn't, I said. Linda frowned. I took it out last night. I put it back. That was a lie. The roast was probably still sitting in the refrigerator, slowly becoming a public health problem. Dr. Patel looked relieved not to be responsible for it. No cooking this weekend. Rest, short walks, nothing strenuous until we see how you tolerate the medication. What counts as strenuous? Anything you have to argue with your husband about. Linda almost smiled. After he left, I took my phone out and saw 3 messages from Evan. Is Mom okay? Dad, call me. He's asking about you, I said. How thoughtful. What do you want me to tell him? The truth seems popular today. I typed that she was stable, staying overnight, and would need rest when she came home. I stared at the message before sending it, checking for any word that might accuse or absolve him. Evan replied before I set the phone down. I knew she'd be okay. Tell her I'll come by tomorrow. Linda read it upside down from the bed. He knew, she said. That's what he wrote. No, Frank? He didn't know. He decided. There's a difference. A transporter came to move her to a room upstairs. While he unplugged the bed, Linda asked me to take her belongings. I carried the clear plastic bag holding her cardigan and shoes. It weighed almost nothing, but she watched it as though I were walking away with evidence that she had once been a person who dressed herself. The overnight room had 1 recliner, 1 window, and a dry erase board that listed the date and the name of a nurse who had gone home 4 hours earlier. Linda immediately found 3 things wrong with it. The television is too high. You don't have to watch it. The chair is too far from the bed. I can move it. And that clock is 7 minutes fast, in case your heart is late. She looked at me then, and for half a second she was herself. That doesn't even make sense. It got you to look at me. I moved the chair closer. For the next few hours, we did the things married people do when one of them is in a hospital and neither wants to discuss why. I adjusted the blinds. She complained about the broth. I walked to the vending machines and returned with crackers she didn't want. She asked whether I had locked the truck. I said yes, though I couldn't remember. At 6, Mara called from Colorado. Linda answered on the second ring and made her voice so bright it sounded painful. I'm fine. It was just a little rhythm problem. I watched her while she spoke. She told Mara the doctors were being cautious. She made fun of the broth. She did not mention Evan. Mara must have asked whether she should fly in, because Linda said, "Absolutely not. Your father is here, and I'm not dying." Then she added, "No, don't call your brother. He knows." Her eyes met mine across the room. After the call, she put the phone on her stomach. "You lied to her," I said. "I edited. That's what I call it too." She turned her head on the pillow. "You think this is my fault?" "No. Some of it is." I could have denied that. It would have been kinder for about 10 minutes. "You've scared him before," I said. "I've been scared before." "I know. There's a difference. I know that too." She picked at the tape holding the IV against her hand. "When he was in college, I called because I had chest pain. You told him to come home. You asked me to. You said he should. I wanted you to calm down, so you made him responsible for it." I leaned back in the recliner. The vinyl squeaked under me. Linda looked toward the window. "And now he thinks my fear is a trick. I think he uses that when it's convenient." She nodded once. There was no satisfaction in being defended. Around 8, her phone buzzed with a message from Tessa. "Evan says you had some tests. Do you need me to bring anything tomorrow?" Linda held the screen out to me. "Some tests," she said. "He may not know what to say. He knows how to say abnormal heart rhythm." "It's only 3 words. 4. She gave me a look. I counted heart rhythm separately. "Thank God you're here," she typed with one finger. "I'm staying overnight, but I should be home tomorrow." "Thank you for asking." Tessa replied with a red heart and an offer to bring soup from a place Linda liked near the courthouse. Linda said no, then changed it to yes before sending. "That soup costs $12 a cup," she said. "If she's offering, I'm taking it." It was the first decision she'd made all day that sounded healthy. I slept badly in the recliner. Every time a machine beeped in the hallway, I opened my eyes. Linda slept with her mouth slightly open, one hand curled near her chin. At 2 in the morning, a nurse came in to check her blood pressure. At 4, somebody rolled a cart past the door, with a wheel that squealed every 3 seconds. At 5:30, Linda woke and said, "The roast." "It's fine." "You didn't put it back?" "No, I knew it. I'll throw it out." She stared at the ceiling. "Sunday dinner is canceled. You don't have to decide that now. I just did. We can move it to next week." "No." She turned her head toward me. "I'm not talking about one Sunday." The room was still blue with early morning. Without her glasses, her eyes looked unguarded. "What are you talking about?" "I don't know yet." That answer frightened me more than if she had laid out a plan. Linda always knew what came next. Dinner at 6. Sheets changed on Tuesday. Birthday cards mailed 5 days early, so nobody thought she had forgotten. Even her worrying followed a schedule. If she didn't know what came next, the rest of us had no idea what we were standing on. They discharged her just before noon. A nurse wheeled her to the entrance, despite Linda's insistence that she could walk. I brought the truck around and found her sitting beneath the awning, with the clear plastic bag in her lap. On the drive home, she kept her hand against the air vent. "Too cold?" I asked. "No." "Too warm?" "No." "Am I allowed to speak?" "I'm considering it." At a red light, I reached over and touched her fingers. She turned her hand beneath mine, palm up. "I should have answered," I said. "You didn't hear it. I should have had my phone. You were helping Evan. I'm always helping Evan." She looked out the window. "Yes." At home, the roast had leaked through its wrapper onto the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. I carried it directly to the outside trash. When I came back in, Linda was standing at the kitchen island with both hands braced on the counter. "What are you doing?" "Looking." "At what?" She gestured around the kitchen. The fruit bowl, the mail stacked beside the toaster, the yellow Dutch oven on the stove from 2 nights before. "I left in the middle of my life yesterday," she said. "I wanted to see if it waited." I helped her upstairs. She changed into pajamas and refused to get into bed until she had moved a stack of folded towels from my side to hers. I made tea and toast, burning the first 2 slices because I was reading the medication instructions at the same time. At 1:30, the doorbell rang. Evan stood on the porch holding a paper bag from the soup place and a bunch of grocery store daisies wrapped in clear plastic. He had changed out of the shirt he wore the day before. His hair was damp and neatly combed. "Tessa said, Mom likes the chicken and rice," he said. "She does." "I got 2. I took the bag but left him holding the flowers. "Can I see her?" "She's resting." I won't stay long. That usually means you plan to. His mouth tightened. Dad, I came over, didn't I? You did. Are you going to make everything I say sound wrong? No. Some of it arrives that way. He looked past me into the house. Is she really okay? She has a heart rhythm problem. The medication may make her dizzy. They're talking about another procedure if it keeps happening. He lowered his eyes to the daisies. I should have answered. It was the apology I had wanted from him, and the moment he said it, I heard what wasn't there. But? I asked. He looked up. You have a but waiting. I just don't think it's fair to act like this happened in a vacuum. I nearly shut the door. Then Linda called from the stairs. Let him in, Frank. She stood halfway down in her robe, one hand gripping the banister. Evan stepped inside so quickly the flower wrapper crackled against the doorframe. Mom, you shouldn't be up. Linda came down one step at a time. That concern arrived fast, she said. He flinched. I said I was sorry. No. You said you should have answered. That could mean anything. You should have answered because it was rude. You should have answered because now your father's angry. You should have answered because it made yesterday inconvenient for you. Evan's eyes flicked toward me. He wanted a translation. I carried the soup to the kitchen. Behind me, he said, I didn't know it was serious, and you made sure you wouldn't find out. You have called me from urgent care because you had a rash. It was spreading. It was poison ivy. I didn't know that when I called. That's my point. Linda reached the bottom step and leaned against the banister post. She looked tired enough to fold. Evan saw it. Whatever argument he had prepared left his face. I was scared, she said, and I asked them to call my son. He swallowed. I know. No, now you know. The silence between them felt old. Older than the hospital, older than the cabinet, maybe older than Evan's habit of letting her calls go to voicemail. He held out the flowers. Linda looked at them without taking them. Why are you here? To see you. Only that? His answer took 1 second too long. Tessa's parents are still coming, he said. I thought maybe, if you felt up to it, you could just tell me how you do the roast. Linda stared at him. Then she started laughing. It wasn't a pleasant laugh. It came out once sharp and astonished and made her press a hand to her chest. Evan stepped toward her. She raised her other hand to stop him. Take your flowers, she said, and go home. Evan looked down at the daisies as if they had betrayed him. You're serious? Linda lowered herself onto the last stair. Very. I came here to apologize. You came here for instructions. That isn't why I came. It's why you stayed. He turned to me. Are you hearing this? I was standing by the kitchen counter with the soup bag in one hand. Warm broth had soaked through the bottom and was dripping onto the floor. I hear her, I said. I'm not asking if you hear sound. That's usually where hearing starts. Frank, Linda said, it wasn't a warning to stop. It was a warning not to rescue anybody by turning the conversation into jokes. I set the soup in the sink. Evan put the daisies on the entry table. I made a mistake. I should have answered the call. I admitted that. You admitted it after your father dragged the apology out of you, Linda said. What do you want me to do? Go back in time? No. Then what? I want you to stop acting like saying the correct sentence should erase what happened. His shoulders rose. And how long am I supposed to be punished? You've been here 6 minutes. I mean this. He moved one hand between them. The cold shoulder. Dad acting like I'm some selfish piece of garbage. You interrogating why I brought flowers. I told you to take them with you. You love daisies. I love daffodils. Evan glanced at the flowers. I almost felt sorry for him. Linda had been buying daffodils for herself every March for as long as he had been alive. The daisies weren't an insult. They were worse than an insult. They were generic. Tessa said daisies, he muttered. Then give them to Tessa. He picked up the bouquet again. The plastic made a dry, restless noise in his fist. Maybe this is why I don't answer, he said. Nothing is ever enough with you. Linda went completely still. He heard it after he said it. His mouth opened, but no correction came. I stepped out from the kitchen. Go home, Evan. Dad, your mother came home from the hospital 2 hours ago. I know that. Then act like you know it. He looked at Linda, waiting for her to undo my decision. She kept her eyes on the rug between his shoes. He left. The front door closed with care. Evan had never been a door slammer. Even furious, he remained aware of hinges. Linda sat on the stair until his truck pulled away. Then she said, "I'm going to faint." I got to her before she slid. She wasn't unconscious, but all the color had left her face. I helped her onto the living room sofa, propped her feet on 2 pillows, and fumbled with the blood pressure cuff the hospital had sent home. "You're putting it on backward," she said. "I know." "You absolutely do not." "I was testing you." Her blood pressure was low, one of the warnings listed for the new medication. I called the number on the discharge sheet. A nurse asked questions while Linda supplied answers loudly enough for both of us. After water, half a cup of soup, and 20 minutes with her feet raised, the numbers improved. "See," she said when I hung up, "all I needed was lunch and for our son to leave. You shouldn't have come downstairs. He shouldn't have come upstairs. He didn't. He would have eventually. He has never respected the purpose of stairs." The joke cost her. She closed her eyes and pressed 2 fingers against her forehead. I heated the soup in a saucepan and brought it to the coffee table with crackers and the peppermint candies from her hospital bag. She took 1 sip. They changed it. "The soup? There used to be more time. You almost fainted and you're reviewing the seasoning. I can do 2 things." I sat in the chair across from her. The daisies had left a small wet ring on the entry table. I wiped it away with my sleeve. "Did I do that?" she asked. "Do what? Make him stop answering." I leaned back. It would have been easy to say no. Linda was pale, tired, and wrapped in the green robe Evan had given her 3 Christmases earlier, after asking me what size she wore. But she wasn't asking for comfort. She was asking because she didn't trust herself to know. "You made it hard for him to tell when something was serious," I said. She stirred the soup, though there was nothing in it that needed stirring. "And you?" she asked. "I told him everything was fine when it wasn't. You told me he was busy." "Sometimes he was." "Sometimes? Sometimes he was watching a football game." Linda gave me a long look. "I thought it would hurt less if you believed he had a reason." It didn't hurt less. It made me feel stupid for being hurt. I rubbed my palms over my knees. "You used to say you didn't want to know." "I didn't want to know once. You turned it into a policy." The room went quiet except for the spoon tapping the side of her cup. I thought of every Sunday Evan had arrived 40 minutes late and greeted us with a story I had already helped him prepare. Traffic, a client call, Tessa couldn't find her keys. Linda would glance at me, and I would confirm some piece of it with a nod. Peace can become a kind of dishonesty if you practice it long enough. "What do we do now?" I asked. "Today?" "In general." Linda looked at the soup, then at the stairs. "Today you help me back to bed, and neither of us calls Evan. That, at least, I knew how to do." Her medications divided the next 2 days into small, color-coded territories. White pill in the morning, blue pill with food, the blood thinner at 6, blood pressure checks before breakfast and before bed. Linda wrote everything on an index card and taped it to the kitchen cabinet beside the refrigerator. The crooked cabinet at Evan's house came to mind every time I looked at it. He texted twice that evening. The first message asked how her blood pressure was. The second said, "I'm sorry she got upset. I showed Linda neither." At 9, my phone rang. I expected Evan, but it was Tessa. "Is Linda awake? She's in bed. Is she okay?" "Better than this afternoon." A pause followed. Tessa was careful with silence. She used it to make other people add things. "I told Evan not to stay long," she said. "He didn't. He said she got worked up because he asked about dinner. He asked for the recipe again." Another pause, longer this time. "He told me you brought that up." "No." "So, he asked?" Standing in our hallway while his mother was wearing a hospital bracelet. I heard her breathe out. "I'm sorry, Frank. You didn't ask him to do that. I asked him to get the soup." "He did. I didn't ask him to get flowers. He called from the grocery store and asked what kind she liked." "Daffodils." "I know. That surprised me." "I told him daffodils," she said. "He said the store didn't have them." I looked at the damp circle on the entry table, though I'd already wiped it clean. "How much has he told you," I asked, "that she had a test and you both got upset because he missed a call?" "He didn't miss it. I'm starting to understand that." Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Linda was awake. "Tessa," I said, lowering my voice, "this isn't your mess to clean up." "No, but I have to eat the pot roast." I laughed before I could stop myself. "So he's still making it?" "He bought the meat." "What kind?" "He said rump roast." I closed my eyes. "Is that bad?" It's not what Linda uses. Should I tell him? No. That answer came out faster than I expected. Tessa made a soft sound that might have been a laugh. Good night, Frank. Good night. Sunday had been circled on the calendar in Linda's handwriting, even Tessa's parents'. Underneath it, she had written pot roast, rolls, apple cake. She stood in front of the calendar that morning, wearing slippers and the blue cardigan from the hospital bag. You're cold? I asked. A little. Doctor said the medication might do that. Doctors blame everything on medication because they don't want to hear the full list. She uncapped the pen attached to the calendar by a string and drew one line through the dinner note, then another. You don't have to destroy the paper. I want it legible. You crossed it out 4 times. Now it's very legible. I made scrambled eggs. She ate 6 bites and told me they were good, which was how I knew they weren't. Linda's compliments were specific when she meant them. At 11, Evan called. I let the phone ring twice before answering. Is Mom up? She's eating. Can I talk to her? I looked at Linda. She shook her head. Not right now. He exhaled. I pictured him in his kitchen, the cabinet door still on the floor, unless he had ignored my warning and screwed it back into the same holes. I'm at the grocery store, he said. Does she use beef broth or stock? Evan, I'm not asking her. I'm asking you, and I'm not telling you. It's broth, Dad. You're withholding broth. I don't know which one she uses. You've eaten it for 40 years. That isn't the same as paying attention. Linda looked at me over her coffee cup. On the phone, Evan said, Fine, forget it. He hung up. That afternoon, I drove to the pharmacy and came home to find Linda sitting at the kitchen table with her recipe box in front of her. It was a plain wooden box with a brass hinge, darkened along the edges from years of use. The cards inside were organized with divider tabs she had made from old greeting cards. Desserts had a strip of red foil along the top. Soups were blue. Holiday food was marked with gold stars. What are you looking for? I asked. My pot roast. Why? I wanted to see if I'd ever written it down. She flipped through the meat section twice. And I wrote, chuck roast, onions, carrots. Then I apparently assumed I would live forever. She held up the card. 3 ingredients on the front, nothing on the back. You could finish it, I said. Linda slid the card into the box. I could. She closed the lid. The phone rang just after 6. This time it was Mara calling to ask why Evan had sent her a photograph of a blackened roast with the message, Happy now? Linda stared at me across the kitchen. I didn't know there was a contest, she said. By 8, Mara had called Evan had called me, and Tessa had sent Linda a private apology for a dinner she hadn't cooked. Tessa's parents had eaten politely. The carrots were hard, the meat was dry, and the smoke detector had gone off while Evan was making gravy. None of it made Linda happy. That was the part Evan could not understand. He called again at 9:30, his voice flat and sharp. You got what you wanted. Linda was beside me on the sofa. I put the call on speaker without asking her. What did we want? I said. To watch me fail. Linda leaned toward the phone. We weren't watching Evan. He went quiet. She continued. That's what you're angry about. Not that the roast failed, that we weren't there to see you try. He hung up. The next morning, the soup container Tessa had bought was washed and sitting by the sink. Before I could decide whether to return it, the doorbell rang. Tessa stood on the porch alone. She looked tired. Not tearful, not furious. Tired in the way people look when an argument has lasted all night without arriving anywhere. I came for the container, she said. I held it out. She didn't take it. Then she looked past me toward the stairs and said, I think Evan lied to me. I stepped aside. Tessa entered but remained on the mat as though crossing farther into the house required a second invitation. She wore black work pants, low heels, and a raincoat she hadn't buttoned correctly. One side hung lower than the other. What did he lie about? I asked. She looked at the container in my hand. Can we not do this in the doorway? I took her coat. Linda was upstairs showering, which the discharge instructions said she could do as long as somebody stayed within shouting distance. She had objected to that phrase on the grounds that I was always within shouting distance. I set the soup container on the kitchen table. Coffee? Do you have any made? No. Then, no. Tessa? Linda stood at the kitchen entrance with a towel wrapped around her damp hair. She had dressed in soft gray pants and a sweater instead of putting her robe back on. The effort had left her cheeks flushed. Tessa rose. You shouldn't have come down. Linda's eyebrows lifted. That sentence is becoming very popular. I didn't mean, I know, sit. Linda took her usual chair at the end of the table. Tessa sat across from her. I moved toward the coffee maker. Frank, Linda said. She said no. I'm making it for myself. You don't drink coffee after 9. I looked at the clock. It was 8:40. I'm preparing. Sit down. I sat. Tessa folded her hands on the table. Her wedding ring clicked softly against the wood. Evan told me the hospital called once, she said. He said he was on a work call and didn't recognize the number. Linda glanced at me. He recognized it, I said. It called twice while I was standing there. He said you knew it was nothing urgent because you were already going to pick her up. I didn't know anything. My phone was in the truck. He also said the argument started because you accused him of using Linda for food. That argument started because he asked for her recipe between the first hospital call and the second. Tessa closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked at Linda. Did you ask the hospital to call him? Yes. Why? Because they couldn't reach Frank, and Evan is my secondary emergency contact. He told me you gave them his number because you were angry he hadn't checked on you that morning. Linda took a slow breath. They asked if there was somebody else. I gave them my son. Okay? It was a small word, but it seemed to remove something heavy from Tessa's shoulders. Linda touched the towel around her hair. Is that all? No. I expected another lie. Instead, Tessa said, he wasn't wrong about everything. Linda's hand stopped. I didn't say he was, she replied. You call me when he doesn't answer. Sometimes. You call me at work. I don't always know when you're working. I've had the same hours for 4 years. Linda looked toward the refrigerator, where the medication schedule was taped beside the calendar. Tessa continued carefully. If Evan forgets your birthday, you call and ask whether I reminded him. If he says we can't come for dinner, you ask me later if that was really my decision. If we do come, you pack food even after I say our refrigerator is full. You don't have to take it. When I don't, you ask if I didn't like it. I'm trying to include you. You include people by giving them a place and getting upset if they don't stand exactly there. The words sat between them. I had heard Tessa object to individual things over the years. No leftovers, thank you. We can only stay an hour. Please call before coming by. Linda heard each one as a request about that particular container, visit, or afternoon. I had heard more in them, but I'd never said so. Linda looked at me. You agree with her. It wasn't a question. Sometimes you make helping hard to refuse. Helping is not an attack. No, Tessa said, but sometimes it comes with paperwork. To my surprise, Linda laughed. It was quiet and brief, but this one didn't sound like it hurt. What kind of paperwork? She asked. Verbal, very detailed, with follow-up questions. Linda removed the towel from her hair and folded it in her lap. Why didn't you tell me? I tried in small ways. You could have told me plainly. Tessa looked at her for a moment. Would you have listened plainly? Linda's mouth tightened. There was enough truth in the question to be rude, and enough history to make politeness useless. No, she said finally. Probably not. Tessa nodded. I watched both women adjust their opinions of each other without becoming friends. It was more honest than most family conversations I had witnessed. None of that means he should have ignored the hospital, Tessa said. No, Linda replied. It doesn't. But I understand why he tells himself he had a reason. So do I. You do? I'm not confused about why my son is angry with me. I'm confused about why his anger means I'm still expected to feed him. Tessa looked down at her hands. It shouldn't, she said. Her phone began vibrating on the table. Evan's name appeared on the screen. She let it ring. Linda noticed. Answer him. I'll call him later. Answer him. We have enough people not answering phones. Tessa gave her a sharp look, then picked up. Hi. Evan's voice was loud enough that I could hear the shape of it, though not every word. I'm at your parents' house. A pause. No, I came to return the container. Another pause. Because I wanted to ask them something. His voice rose. Tessa pushed her chair back and walked into the living room. I'm not discussing this with you while you're talking like that. She listened. No, they didn't call me. Linda's eyes stayed on the folded towel. I'll come home when I'm done. Tessa ended the call and remained in the living room for several seconds. When she returned, the careful expression was gone. He thinks you're trying to turn me against him. We didn't know you were coming, I said. I told him that. He won't believe you, Linda said. He'll believe me eventually. There was steel in Tessa I hadn't seen before. Not anger, endurance. She put on her raincoat without fixing the buttons. At the door, Linda said, Tessa. Tessa turned. I'm sorry I made kindness feel like an assignment. It wasn't a perfect apology. Linda's apologies often arrived wearing a good blouse and expecting to be complimented. But this one had no explanation behind it. Tessa looked surprised. Thank you. And I'm sorry about last night. You didn't cook it. No, but I taught Evan to think a family dinner was a test he could pass by, putting the right thing on the table. Tessa gave a tired smile. He didn't put the right thing on the table. I heard. It was very bad. I also heard that. The gravy had pieces. Gravy shouldn't have pieces unless you plan the pieces. I don't think he planned anything. For a moment, all three of us smiled. Then Tessa's face became serious again. I love him, she said. I'm not here to join a side. I don't want you on my side, Linda said. I want him to stop pretending there are only sides. Tessa left with the empty container. Evan called me before her car had cleared the end of the street. I answered in the kitchen. Linda stayed at the table, combing her wet hair with her fingers. What did you tell her? He demanded. The truth. Which version? The one where you watched the hospital call twice. You had no right to drag her into this. She came here because you upset her last night. I didn't call her last night. You told her about the recipe. She asked, do you enjoy this? No. You sound like you do. That's because you've decided anybody who doesn't protect you is attacking you. He went silent. I had never spoken to him that directly. My chest tightened while I waited for the reaction. Part of me still expected him to hang up and disappear from our lives because I had used one sentence without padding. What do you want from me? He asked. Talk to your wife. I do talk to my wife. Then try listening between turns. He laughed once. That sounds like Mom. No. Your mother would give you 6 examples, Linda mouthed. 7. I turned away so he wouldn't hear me laugh. I apologized, Evan said. Mom threw me out. You asked for the recipe again. I was trying to move past it. You were trying to get what you wanted so you could feel like everything was normal. What's wrong with wanting normal? The question caught me. Nothing was wrong with wanting normal if normal had been good to you. Your normal costs your mother a lot of work, I said. She likes cooking. She likes you. That isn't the same thing. I know. He hung up without saying goodbye. Linda remained at the table, pulling damp strands of hair apart with her fingers. You enjoyed that a little, she said. Maybe the 6 examples. 7, I corrected myself. You didn't. I brought her comb from upstairs. When I handed it to her, she looked at me instead of taking it. How long have you known Tessa felt that way? I didn't know all of it. How much? I knew she didn't like being asked if Evan's decisions were really hers. And you never told me. I thought you'd be hurt. I am hurt. That was what I was avoiding. She took the comb. You keep saying that, like it worked. The pharmacy bag sat on the counter beside a row of pill bottles. Outside, the rain had stopped, and weak sunlight came through the window over the sink. I thought keeping everybody calm was the same as keeping everybody close, I said. Linda drew the comb through a knot and winced. Calm is useful on a bus. Trains too. You didn't work on trains. I've always been calm about them. She shook her head, but the corner of her mouth moved. Her phone rang. Mara's picture filled the screen. Linda answered and immediately said, Do not buy a plane ticket. I heard my daughter's voice firing through the speaker. No, I am not alone. Your father is standing 3 feet away being irritating. More rapid speech. I don't need you to confront anybody. Linda looked at me and closed her eyes. Mara, listen to me. If you come here to make your brother feel worse, stay in Colorado. The answer was loud enough that I caught the words already booked. Linda ended the call and set the phone down. When? I asked. Tomorrow afternoon. How long? She bought a one-way ticket. I leaned against the counter. Linda looked toward the crossed-out dinner on the calendar. Everyone keeps showing up, she said, now that I've stopped cooking. Mara's flight landed at 3:20 the next afternoon. By 3:40, she had texted me twice about the airport signs, once about the pickup lane, and once to ask whether Linda was allowed sodium. When I found her outside baggage claim, she was standing beside a large blue suitcase with a canvas tote over one shoulder and a neck pillow still fastened around her throat. Mara had inherited my light hair, Linda's opinions, and the unfortunate belief that moving quickly made other people move more efficiently. She hugged me with one arm. "How does she look? Like your mother?" "Dad." "She's tired. Is she pale?" "Sometimes." "Is she dizzy?" "When she stands too fast." "Is she following the medication schedule?" "It's taped to the cabinet." "Who made the schedule?" "She did." Mara nodded with relief. Apparently my involvement had been the questionable part. In the parking garage, she opened the canvas tote and showed me what she had brought. Electrolyte packets, a pill organizer, compression socks, herbal tea, 3 magazines, and a paperback called Reclaiming Your Heart Health. Did her doctor recommend any of this? The socks are generally good. For what? Circulation. So is walking. She's dizzy. Then she'll walk slowly. Mara zipped the bag. "You're being defensive. You've been in Virginia 20 minutes. I've been talking to Mom all week. She was in the hospital 3 days ago. That's what I mean." On the drive home, she asked for the full story. I gave her the medical part first. She interrupted every few sentences to ask questions I couldn't answer about medication interactions and future procedures. Then she asked about Evan. I told her what happened in his kitchen. Mara turned toward me so sharply the neck pillow shifted under her chin. "He declined it twice?" "Yes." "And then asked for the recipe?" "You knew that part." "I thought he asked earlier. It was between the calls." She stared through the windshield. "What a bastard. Don't call him that." "Why not?" "Because he's your brother. That's not a medical condition." "No, but it's permanent." Mara pulled out her phone. "Who are you calling?" "Evan." "No. He needs to hear from somebody who isn't cushioning this. Your mother told you not to come here to confront him. I'm not confronting him. I'm talking. You've never said I'm talking when you meant talking." She set the phone in her lap, but her thumb stayed on the screen. Linda was waiting in the living room when we arrived. She had put on lipstick. That told me more about her condition than the blood pressure cuff. Mara dropped her tote and knelt beside the sofa to hug her. "Oh, Mom, please don't say it like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm being identified at the morgue." Mara laughed and then cried, which annoyed her. Linda rubbed her back. "I'm all right. You had an abnormal rhythm. So does your father when he dances." "I don't dance." "Exactly. No rhythm at all." Mara sat beside her and held both her hands. The two of them looked alike around the eyes, though Mara's concern came out as speed and Linda's came out as instructions. "I cleared my schedule," Mara said. "I can stay as long as you need." Linda's expression shifted. "I don't need you to stay. I know you don't need me. I want to. You brought a suitcase large enough to contain a body. I didn't know how long. You bought a one-way ticket. It was cheaper." "Mara, okay. I wanted flexibility." Linda glanced at me as if I had personally invented air travel. Mara began unpacking her tote on the coffee table. Every item came with an explanation. The tea was caffeine-free. The socks had graduated compression. The pill organizer had morning, noon, evening, and bedtime compartments that detach for travel. "I already have an organizer," Linda said. "Yours only has morning and evening. That's when I take pills. You take the blue one with lunch. I keep it beside my plate. What if you eat somewhere else? I bring the plate." Mara held up the new organizer. "This is better." "No, it's larger. Larger can be better. Not in pill organizers or tumors." I took the electrolyte packets and carried them to the kitchen before either woman could defend their position further. Mara followed me. "What are we making for dinner?" "Sandwiches. Mom needs a real meal. Soup and sandwiches are real. Too much sodium. The soup is homemade." "By who?" I looked at her. "Whom?" she corrected. "Not me." She opened the refrigerator and inspected the shelves. "There's nothing here. There are eggs, cheese, soup, salad, and half a chicken. That chicken looks old? I bought it yesterday." "Then why is half of it gone?" "We ate the other half." She looked unconvinced. Linda appeared in the doorway, one hand against the frame. "I can make something." "No," Mara and I said together. Linda blinked. Mara opened the vegetable drawer. "I'll make your chicken soup." "With what chicken?" "The half. That's already cooked." "I know." "You don't make it with cooked chicken? Then I'll make a different soup." "With half a chicken?" "Mom, sit down. If you don't want information, don't announce plans in my kitchen." Mara shut the drawer. "I'm trying to help." I know. Apparently that's hereditary. The comment was aimed at herself as much as Mara. I could tell by the way she lowered her eyes afterward. We ended up eating scrambled eggs, toast, and sliced tomatoes. I made the eggs. Mara stood beside me, asking whether Linda usually added milk, cream, or water. I told her I didn't know. She asked Linda twice. Linda pretended not to hear. At the table, Mara kept watching her mother chew. "Stop looking at me," Linda said. "I'm not." "You're counting my bites. I'm making sure you eat. I've been eating since before you had teeth." Mara put down her fork. "I flew across the country because you were in the hospital. I told you not to. Do you want me to leave?" Linda looked at her plate. "No." "Then let me care. I'm trying to figure out what that means when I'm not the one doing everything." The admission softened Mara immediately. "It means you rest," she said. "That's what doctors say when they don't know you. It means we handle things." "What things? Dinner, laundry, calls, whatever." Linda's gaze moved to the calendar. The crossed-out note about Evan's dinner was still visible beneath the black lines. "Who handles the family when I stop?" Mara smiled as if the answer were obvious. "We do." Her phone chimed. She picked it up, typed something, and set it down. A moment later, mine chimed, then Linda's. A message had appeared in the family group thread, sent by Mara. "Mom needs quiet while she recovers. Please don't call repeatedly or come by unless she invites you. Dad and I have things covered." Linda read it twice. "I didn't ask you to send that. I'm setting a boundary." "Whose?" "Yours. I can set my own boundaries. You weren't." "I started Sunday." Mara's phone chimed again. Evan had replied. "Good to know she has approved visitors now," Mara typed. I reached across the table and put my hand over her phone. "Don't. He's making this about him. You made an announcement about him without using his name. I said everybody. You meant Evan. He knows what he did. Then he doesn't need you to perform knowing it." Mara pulled the phone from beneath my hand. "You protected him for years, and look where it got us." "I know where it got us." "Do you?" "Yes." The word came out louder than I intended. Linda set down her fork. I continued more quietly. "I'm not protecting him. I'm protecting your mother from becoming the center of a family trial." Mara looked at Linda. "Is that what this feels like? It feels like everyone has decided my heart problem is their opportunity to say what they've been saving." Mara's face fell. "I'm not trying to use it. No, you're trying to win. Against Evan? Against the idea that living far away makes you less involved." Mara sat back. "That isn't fair." "Probably not," Linda said, "but it isn't entirely wrong." The room went still. Mara had moved to Colorado 11 years earlier for a job she loved and a life that fit her better. Linda had never asked her to return. She had merely mentioned the distance whenever a holiday went badly, an appliance broke, or somebody else's daughter visited for lunch. Mara called often. She remembered medications, asked good questions, and sent thoughtful gifts. She also relied on Linda to remind her of birthdays, anniversaries, and every widening crack between family members. "I call you 4 times a week," Mara said. "You do. I know more about your doctors than Evan does. You do. So why are you putting me in the same category?" "I'm not. Dad just did." Both women looked at me. I wiped my mouth with a napkin. "Who told you about Tessa's promotion last year?" Mara frowned. "Mom? Who reminds you when Evan's mad at you?" "Mom usually knows." "Who tells you when your aunt's feelings are hurt because you haven't called?" "That's different. Why?" "Because Mom likes keeping track." Linda gave a short laugh. "There it is again." Mara looked from her to me. "I didn't ask you to do those things." "No," Linda said. "You just noticed when I stopped." The same sentence applied to more than pot roast. None of us liked hearing it. Linda picked up her phone and typed slowly. Another message appeared in the family thread. "I can speak for myself. I need rest, but I also need everyone to stop managing one another through me. Sunday dinners are canceled until I decide otherwise. If I need help, I will ask." Mara read it with her lips pressed together. Evan responded a minute later. "Understood." Tessa added a heart, then apparently reconsidered and replaced it with, "We understand." Linda set the phone face down. "Can we finish dinner now?" Mara nodded. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Afterward, Mara insisted on washing the dishes. Linda went upstairs to rest. I dried while Mara scrubbed the frying pan with more force than eggs required. "You enjoyed correcting me?" she said. "No, you sounded like you did." Evan said the same thing. That doesn't mean it isn't true. I hung a plate in the rack. You flew here because you love her, I said, but you also came because loving her from Colorado suddenly felt insufficient. Her scrubbing slowed. That's not a crime. No? Then stop talking like I'm selfish. I'm saying we all learned to let your mother prove she loved us by working. Mara stared into the sink. What does that make you? The man who stood closest and called it peace. She rinsed the pan. Her phone vibrated on the counter. Evan was calling. She looked at me before answering. What? His voice came through loud and angry. Mara's expression sharpened. No, she didn't send me to talk to you. I put down the dish towel. Mara. She raised one hand. I came because she was in the hospital while you were shopping for dinner advice. I reached for the phone, but she stepped away. Whatever Evan said next drained the color from her face. Then she said, very quietly, You don't get to blame me for leaving when you're the one who stayed and still didn't show up. She ended the call. What did he say? I asked. Mara stared at the dark screen. He said at least he didn't move 2,000 miles away and leave Mom for everyone else to handle. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Linda had heard. Linda came down far enough for us to see her between the railing posts. Everyone else to handle, she said. Mara turned toward the stairs. Mom, he was angry. I know what angry sounds like. He was trying to hurt me. And did it work? Mara folded her arms. A little. Linda descended slowly. I moved to help, but she waved me off before I reached her. What did you say before that? She asked Mara. I told him the truth. That phrase is getting a great deal of exercise. I said he was shopping for recipe advice while you were in the hospital. That's not exactly what happened. Mara stared at her. You're defending him? No. I'm refusing to let you improve the story, so your part sounds cleaner. He asked for the recipe between the calls. Yes, he wasn't shopping. You know what I meant. I do. He probably did too. Mara looked at me. Are you too seriously correcting my phrasing right now? Linda reached the kitchen and took the chair nearest the doorway. No, she said. I'm asking why you called him after I told you not to. He called me. You answered with your fist already closed. He deserved it. Maybe. Was it useful? That's not the only standard. It should be one of them. Mara leaned against the counter. The anger had gone out of her face, leaving the hurt underneath. He thinks I abandoned you. He was trying to find the bruise. He found it. Linda looked down at her hands. For years she had treated Mara's move to Colorado as both a brave decision and a personal loss. She bragged about our daughter's work, her friends, the mountain view from her apartment. Then, on bad days, she mentioned that the flight took 4 hours and cost more at Christmas. You didn't abandon me, Linda said. You've made comments. I've missed you. That isn't the same thing? It shouldn't be, but it has been. Linda nodded slowly. Then I'm sorry. Mara's chin trembled. Don't apologize because Evan was cruel. I'm apologizing because he knew which cruelty might sound believable. Nobody had a quick answer to that. Mara sat across from her mother. Sometimes I don't call because I know the first 10 minutes will be about how long it's been since I called. I know, and then I feel guilty, so I wait longer. I know. You always say you know after somebody tells you something you didn't know. Linda gave her a tired smile. I know. Mara laughed despite herself and wiped beneath one eye. The two of them talked until the light outside the kitchen windows went dark. Not continuously. Linda tired easily, and Mara kept trying to turn each admission into a solution. Every few minutes, one of them would say something that made the other go quiet. I made tea and stayed near the sink. Linda admitted she had used information to keep herself at the center of the family. If Mara called her, she could learn how Evan was doing. If Evan called, she could tell him whether Mara was angry. She had thought she was connecting them. In truth, she had made herself the bridge and then complained that everybody walked on her. Mara admitted that distance made it easy to be the appreciative daughter. She praised Linda's Sunday dinners without staying to clean. She listened to complaints about Evan and offered opinions without risking a direct conversation with him. She sent gifts that arrived on time because Linda reminded her which dates mattered. You still chose the gifts, Linda said. That isn't the point. It's a small point. All right, I chose excellent gifts. The scarf last Christmas was itchy. You said you loved it. I loved that you sent it. That is the most mother thing you've ever said. By 10, Linda was pale again. I stopped the conversation and took her blood pressure. Mara hovered over my shoulder. Is that low? It's lower than usual. How low? I can read it. You're blocking the numbers. I'm sitting beside her. Linda held out one hand without opening her eyes. Mara took it. I called the nurse line. The advice was the same. Water, rest, rise slowly, call again if the dizziness worsened. Mara watched me write everything down on the back of an envelope. You should use a notebook, she said. I looked at her. Sorry. Linda went upstairs. Mara slept in her old room, though it hadn't been her room for years. Linda had replaced the bedspread, removed the concert posters, and filled half the closet with wrapping paper. Mara found a stack of her college textbooks on the top shelf and carried one downstairs the next morning. You kept introductory statistics? Linda looked up from her toast. It cost $112. It was published 24 years ago. Numbers don't change, the methods do. Then the new methods can explain why that book cost so much. Mara stayed 4 nights. She washed towels that were already clean, reorganized the pantry until Linda couldn't find the rice, and labeled the pill organizer, despite Linda refusing to use it. She also learned how to take Linda's blood pressure without fastening the cuff backward, drove her to the pharmacy, and sat with her through an afternoon when the medication made her too tired to talk. She did not call Evan again. On her last morning, she set a round-trip alert on her phone so she could return for Linda's follow-up appointment if needed. You don't have to come, Linda said. I know. You have work. I can rearrange things. Don't rearrange them yet? Mara tucked the empty electrolyte packets back into her tote. Can you let me decide whether it's inconvenient? Linda opened her mouth. Then she closed it. Yes. And don't call me to remind me to call you. That's an unreasonable number of calls in one sentence. Mom? All right, I'm going to call because I want to. What if you forget? Then you'll learn whether I remember without being managed. Linda's face showed exactly how little she liked this experiment. All right, she said again. At the airport, Mara hugged me beside the departure doors. Is she actually going to rest? No. Dad, I'll watch her. That's not what I asked. It's the answer I have. Mara adjusted the strap of her tote. Don't let her turn you into the new version of herself. I'm not organized enough. I'm serious. So am I. She studied me, then kissed my cheek. Call me if anything changes. I will, even if Mom says not to. I'll use judgment. That worries me more. When I returned home, Linda was in the kitchen with the recipe box open. The 3-line pot roast card lay on the table. I thought you were resting, I said. I did. It was terrible. You'll get better with practice. I don't intend to. I took off my jacket. What are you doing? Making a list? No. I didn't ask the question yet. If the list ends with you cooking, no. She turned the card toward me. You're cooking. That was how I found myself at the grocery store, staring at 6 pieces of beef that all appeared to come from different animals. Linda had written, chuck roast, well marbled. The labels offered chuck eye, chuck shoulder, boneless chuck, and something called a chuck tender that looked neither tender nor honest. I called her. Which chuck? The roast. They're all roasts. The one with fat through it. They all have fat. Not on the edge, through it. A man beside me picked up a package and left. I resented his confidence. What weight? About 4 pounds. This one is 3.7. That's about 4. This one is 4.3. Also about 4. You're not helping? I've been saying that for days. I bought the larger one. At home, Linda sat in a kitchen chair while I worked. She had agreed not to stand, but she rolled the chair closer every time I turned away. Dry the meat first, she said. It's going into liquid. That doesn't matter. Water is going to touch it. Later. I patted the roast with paper towels. More salt. That's a lot of salt. It's 4 pounds of meat. You told me to cut sodium. I told you not to buy canned gravy. I heated oil in the Dutch oven. It began smoking. Too hot, Linda said. You said hot. I didn't say chimney fire. I lowered the burner and put in the roast. It stuck immediately. Don't move it. It's stuck. That's why you don't move it. How does that help? It releases when it's ready. I waited 6 seconds. Is it ready? No. How do you know? I can hear you. By the time the onions went in, I had used 3 cutting boards, 2 knives, and every paper towel we owned. Linda's patience faded in direct proportion to the mess. Those are too thick. You said slices. I meant thinner slices. Then say thin. I thought you'd seen an onion. I pointed the knife at her. You're a difficult supervisor. You're a needy employee. The roast went into the oven shortly after noon. At 3, I added the carrots. At 4, I checked the meat and released most of the heat from the oven. At 5, the roast was still tough. It needs time, Linda said. You said 4 hours. I said around 4 hours. At 6:30, it finally softened. I lifted it onto a platter and tried to make gravy from the liquid left in the pot. The result was gray, thin, and dotted with flour lumps. Linda tasted it. Well, I asked. It's warm. That is not a compliment. The carrots are good. The roast? She chewed longer than seemed medically necessary. You selected a very athletic cow. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. We ate at the kitchen table with no children, no containers lined up for leftovers, and no one arriving late. The meat was dry at the edges and underseasoned in the middle. The onions had disappeared entirely. The gravy ran across the plate like dirty rainwater. I took another bite. You made this every Sunday? I asked. Not every Sunday. Often enough. She shrugged. How long did it take before you stopped needing instructions? No one gave me instructions. Your mother said, brown it properly, and then criticized me for 12 years. My mother had standards. Your mother had binoculars for flaws. I looked around the kitchen at the pans, knives, oily stovetop, and cutting boards waiting to be washed. You did all this, and then everybody left. You helped clean, after you asked, usually twice. The phone rang on the counter. Mercy General. Linda and I looked at each other. I answered on the first ring. Doctor. Patel's office had received the data from the monitor Linda had worn before the stress test. There had been 2 more episodes, one lasting longer than he liked. He wanted to see her sooner and discuss scheduling the ablation. When I ended the call, Linda remained very still. Do we tell them? I asked. Not yet. Mara asked me to call if anything changed. I know. And Evan? She looked at the pot roast between us. One uneven slice gone from each plate. I want one fact about my own body, she said, before it becomes family weather. I wanted to argue that families were supposed to know when something important happened. Then I remembered how often I had decided which version each person could handle. All right, I said, for tonight. Linda nodded. For tonight is not the same as until the procedure. I heard you. You heard words. That's usually where hearing starts. She gave me a look that said I had stolen her joke and damaged it. We washed the dishes together, which meant I washed while Linda sat near the sink and told me which pans needed soaking. The Dutch oven took up half the basin. Gray gravy clung to the bottom like wet cement. Don't scrape it with metal, she said. I'm using wood. That spoon has a metal edge. It's paint. It looks like metal. You've owned it for 15 years. I don't study spoons. I turned around. She smiled. It was the first evening since the hospital that didn't feel entirely organized around what had happened. Even the new information from Dr. Patel remained contained between us, quiet as an appliance in another room. That containment lasted until bedtime. Linda stood at her dresser, sorting her earrings into a small ceramic dish. If I tell Mara, she'll come back. Probably. She'll act like I tricked her into leaving. You didn't know when she left. She'll still find a way. She comes by it honestly. Linda removed her watch. If I tell Evan, he'll think I'm testing him. Are you? No. Then let him think what he thinks. You make that sound easy. I've watched you ignore my opinions for 41 years. Your opinions lack persistence. She sat on the edge of the bed. What if I tell him and he doesn't come? The question was almost too quiet to hear. I hung my shirt over the chair instead of answering immediately. That's possible. I know it's possible. You asked what if. I didn't ask for the weather report. I sat beside her. Then it hurts. She looked down at her hands. And if you don't tell him, I said, you'll never know whether he would have come. That also hurts. Yes. She leaned against my shoulder. There are ages when you believe marriage means solving the other person's pain. Later, if you are lucky, you learn that sometimes it means sitting still while the pain refuses to be solved. The next morning, I found a message from Evan. Cabinets fixed. Below it was a photograph. The door sat straight above the refrigerator, aligned with the cabinet beside it. What did you use? I typed. Toggle bolts, long ones. Good. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and appeared again. "How's Mom?" "Better." Another pause. "Tell her I asked?" I looked toward the kitchen. Linda was standing at the counter cutting a banana into her oatmeal, despite my request that she sit. "Tell her yourself," I wrote. The dots came back. Then they vanished. He did not call. Sunday arrived without a roast thawing in the refrigerator. No rolls sat beneath a dish towel. Linda didn't take the good plates from the cabinet or ask me whether the dining room looked dusty. At 11, she walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and stared inside. "What do you want for lunch?" I asked. "I don't know." "Soup? No. Eggs? No. Sandwich?" "You're naming foods, Frank. That's how lunch works." She closed the door. I used to know what everybody would eat before they arrived. Nobody's arriving, I noticed. We took a walk around the block. Dr. Patel wanted her moving, but not quickly. Linda disliked any activity that required her to be slow in public. When an older man with a small white dog passed us, she tried to increase her pace. "This isn't a race," I said. "He's 80. You don't know that. He's wearing orthopedic sandals with socks. He could be 50 in German." The man and dog turned the corner ahead of us. Linda sighed. We lost. When we returned, Tessa's car was parked at the curb. She stood on the porch holding a stack of plastic food containers. I recognized everyone. Blue lids, green lids, a square one with a crack along the corner that Linda refused to throw out because it still held potatoes. "I thought these belonged here," Tessa said. Linda looked at the stack. "You don't have to return everything at once." "I know." "Did Evan ask you to?" "No." That answer carried enough weight to end the questions. I took the containers and went inside. Tessa followed us to the kitchen, where Linda began matching lids to bottoms automatically. "This lid isn't ours," Linda said. "It was in the cabinet with the others. It's too large. Throw it away. It might belong to somebody." "Who?" "I don't know. That's why I can't throw it away." Tessa sat at the table. "Evan thinks returning these is dramatic." Linda set down the wrong lid. "Is it?" "Probably." "Then why do it?" "Because every time I opened the cabinet, they fell out." I laughed. Tessa smiled, then looked at Linda. "And because I don't want him pretending nothing changed. You can keep the containers." "I know." Linda put the mismatched lid aside. "How are things at home?" "Quiet." "Quiet can be good. Not this kind." I started to leave the kitchen. "Frank," Linda said, "don't make me talk to her alone because she's your daughter-in-law. I was giving you privacy. You were escaping." I sat at the far end of the table. Tessa folded a blue lid back and forth between her hands. "He's angry that I believed you," she said. "You believed what happened," I replied. "That distinction isn't helping at home." Linda placed the matching container in the stack. "Do you believe him about the other things?" "Yes." "Good." Tessa looked surprised. "I was afraid you'd make me choose which one of you is telling the truth," she said. "People can tell the truth about different injuries," Linda said. "They just can't use one injury to erase another." I watched her. 3 days earlier, she might have needed me to say that for her. Maybe she had always known it and simply preferred my voice when the room got difficult. Tessa stopped bending the lid. "He hasn't been sleeping," she said. "He keeps his phone on loud?" Linda's hands went still. "He says it's because work has been busy," Tessa continued. "But every time it rings, he looks at the screen before he moves. That's not something I wanted." "I know." "Did he send you to tell me? He would be furious if he knew I told you. Then maybe you shouldn't." Tessa's expression hardened. "I'm not asking permission to speak about my own husband." Linda nodded. "You're right." The correction came quickly enough to surprise all of us. Tessa leaned back. "He's ashamed." "Shame is not an apology," Linda said. "No, but it's not nothing. I didn't say it was. He doesn't know how to come here without everybody watching to see whether he's doing it correctly." "We watched him his whole life," I said. "He survived. Did he?" The question wasn't cruel. That made it harder. Tessa looked at Linda. "He thinks love in this family has a correct response. Call at the right time. Stay the right length. Bring the right flowers." "Daffodils," Linda said. I told him. "I know. He brought what they had, and I sent them away because I didn't want what he had." Tessa's mouth softened. Linda touched the crack in the square container. "When Evan was 19, she said, I had chest pain. It turned out to be indigestion, but I didn't know that. I wanted him home. He told me. I called too many times. His father told him to come. Tessa glanced at me. I did, I said. He had an exam the next morning, Linda continued. I made my fear more important than his life. Then, when the doctor said I was fine, I acted as if the result proved I hadn't done anything wrong. Why are you telling me? Because I know why he ignored me. Tessa waited. Linda placed the crack container on top of the stack. I just don't know why understanding him is always supposed to end with me accepting whatever he did. It shouldn't, Tessa said. The kitchen went quiet. Tessa stayed for coffee, though I accidentally made it too weak. She drank it without complaint, which Linda considered dishonest. When she left, she took the mismatched lid with her. She's throwing that away, Linda said. I hope so. It might fit something. It has no home. That's not a reason to destroy it. It's exactly the reason. 2 days later, we sat in Dr. Patel's office while he showed us another set of lines on a screen. The medication had reduced the episodes, but not stopped them. An ablation wasn't an emergency, he explained, but it offered a good chance of correcting the rhythm before it caused more trouble. Linda asked about every possible complication. I asked how long she would need to stay. 1 night, most likely, he said. No lifting for about a week. She'll need someone with her the first 24 hours. I'll be there, I said. Linda scheduled it for the following month. At the reception desk, a woman handed her a clipboard to confirm her address, insurance, medications, and emergency contacts. My name was first. Evans was second. Linda stared at the line. Then she drew one neat stroke through his name and phone number. The receptionist looked at the form. Would you like to add another contact? Linda glanced at me. Mara, I suggested. She lives in Colorado. That doesn't matter for notification. It matters to her. Mrs. Mercer, the receptionist said. Linda shook her head. Leave it blank. In the parking lot, I unlocked the truck but didn't open the door. Was that necessary? I don't trust him to answer. He's keeping his phone loud now. Tessa said that, not him. You could tell him. I will. When? When I'm ready to hear his answer. I looked back through the glass doors. The receptionist had carried the clipboard away. Evan's name was already gone from the only place where, weeks earlier, we had needed it to mean something. Linda touched my arm. I'm not punishing him, Frank. I know. That was what made the empty line hurt. Linda climbed into the truck and fastened her seatbelt before I got behind the wheel. Neither of us spoke until we reached the first traffic light. What are you thinking? She asked. That empty spaces aren't as empty as they look. You've been married to me too long. You used to answer questions normally. I'm thinking Evan will be hurt. He hurt me. I know. That doesn't mean I want to hurt him. I know that too. The light changed. A car behind us honked before my foot reached the accelerator. Linda turned in her seat and looked through the rear window. Where would you like him to go through us? I drove. At home, she called Mara before taking off her shoes. I heard our daughter answer on the first ring. Everything is fine, Linda said. I carried the folder from Dr. Patel's office into the kitchen. No, that was not a strategic opening. Everything is actually fine. I heard Mara's voice accelerate. Slow down. He recommends an ablation. It's scheduled for next month. Another burst. No. Do not book anything. Linda listened, then sat on the bottom stair. I'm not telling you not to come. I'm telling you not to buy a ticket while I'm still giving you the date. She smiled despite herself. Yes, Frank will be here. She looked toward me. And yes, he knows where the hospital is. I put the folder beside the recipe box. There was a longer silence on the phone. I removed Evan as my secondary contact, Linda said. The smile left her face. No, I don't want to discuss whether he deserved it. Mara's voice softened enough that I couldn't make out the words. I'd like to put you instead, if you're willing. Linda listened. Thank you. When she hung up, she remained on the stair. She didn't ask whether I was punishing him, she said. Maybe she learned. Maybe I trained her too well. I sat beside her. Those aren't the only possibilities. Her phone rang in her hand. Evan. We both looked at the screen. You don't have to answer, I said. That's not the lesson I want. She accepted the call. Hello? I started to stand, but she caught my sleeve and kept me beside her. Yes, I'm feeling better. A pause. No, Tessa didn't upset me. Another pause, longer. She brought back containers, Evan. She didn't testify before Congress. I heard his voice rise. Linda closed her eyes. I didn't ask her to come. He said something else? No. Your father didn't invite her either. She listened because she wanted to know what happened. Her fingers tightened around my sleeve. Yes, I told her about the hospital calls. More words came through, fast and indistinct. I'm not discussing your marriage with you. Linda's voice stayed level, but her grip on me hurt. You're right. I've discussed it before when I shouldn't have. I'm not doing that now. He went quiet long enough that she checked the screen. Then she said, "Thank you." I looked at her. For saying that. Another pause. Yes, asking for the recipe again was hurtful. She listened. No, I don't know when Sunday dinners will start again. Her face changed. Evan, wanting to see us, is not the same as wanting Sunday dinner. He said something quieter. I'll think about it. The call ended. What will you think about? I asked. He wants to come over. When? He said, whenever. That's new. He apologized for asking about the recipe. That's also new. He didn't apologize for the hospital. No. Linda released my sleeve. He said he already did. He thinks I should have answered counts. He thinks a lot of things count. She stood and went upstairs. The next morning I texted Evan and asked him to meet me for lunch. He chose a diner near his office, one of those places with laminated menus large enough to use as emergency roofing. He arrived 8 minutes late and slid into the booth across from me. I only have 45 minutes. I'm retired. I have your share. He didn't smile. A waitress brought coffee. Evan ordered a turkey club without looking at the menu. I ordered meatloaf, then regretted it when I remembered the roast. How's Mom? He asked. You spoke to her yesterday. I'm asking you. She's better. Is she still mad? Yes. He tore open a packet of sugar and emptied it into his coffee. Is that why you wanted lunch? No. Then what? I had rehearsed the sentence in the truck. It sounded worse in the diner. I owe you an apology. Evan stopped stirring. For what? For teaching you that avoiding your mother was the only way to have a boundary. He set down the spoon. Did she send you? No. Does she know you're saying this? No. Then why now? Because I watched you ignore a hospital call, and I knew exactly how you got there. His face hardened. You mean because of her? I mean because of both of us. The waitress put water on the table. We waited until she left. When your mother was afraid, I said, I made you help calm her even when it wasn't your job. When you were angry, I told her you were busy. I kept translating until neither of you had to say what you meant. You made me come home from college. Yes. I had an exam. I know. She had gas. She had chest pain. We didn't know it was indigestion yet. You knew the doctor wasn't worried. I knew he thought it was probably not her heart. I also knew she wouldn't calm down until you came, and asking you was easier than telling her no. Evan looked out the window. Cars passed through the parking lot beyond the glass, their reflections sliding across his face. You told me family shows up, he said. I told you that whenever your mother wanted something. You agreed with her. Sometimes. Most of the time. More than I should have. He rubbed one thumb along a scratch in the table. Do you remember when she called me 6 times because I didn't come to Thanksgiving breakfast? You came for dinner. I told both of you I was coming for dinner. She thought breakfast meant more time together. She thought if she cooked 2 meals, she got 2 visits. I remembered that morning. Linda had been up before sunrise making cinnamon rolls. She never asked whether Evan wanted breakfast. She announced when it would be ready. I should have told her that wasn't fair, I said. But instead, I called you. You said she was crying. She was. You knew that would make me come. Yes. His sandwich arrived. My meatloaf came beneath a blanket of brown gravy that looked suspiciously smooth. Neither of us ate. Evan stared at the fries on his plate. When that hospital number came up, he said, I thought, here we go. I waited. I knew she was having a test. I figured her phone died, or she wanted somebody to call you because you were late. Something like that. And the second call? He moved one fry from one side of the plate to the other. The second one scared me. You didn't look scared. I knew you'd seen me ignore the first. If I answered the second, then I'd have to admit the first one might have mattered. I sat back. It was such a childish reason that I believed him completely. Pride has kept grown men in burning rooms. So, you asked for the recipe, I said. That wasn't connected. It was the next sentence out of your mouth. I was trying to change the subject. To your mother doing something for you. I didn't think of it like that. You didn't think of her at all. His jaw tightened. This is why apologizing in our family is impossible. Nobody wants the apology. They want you to agree with every terrible thing they've decided it says about you. I haven't heard you apologize. I said I should have answered. That describes a mistake. It doesn't tell her you understand what it cost. She was alone for an hour. Yes. You were supposed to be there. There it was. I was. You left your phone in the truck because you came to fix my cabinet. Somehow, I'm the only villain. I should have been there, I said. He looked at me, thrown by the lack of defense. I told your mother that. Does she blame you? Yes. She doesn't act like it. You weren't there for that part. Our food cooled between us. Evan finally picked up half his sandwich. What am I supposed to say to her? The truth. I've told the truth. You've given reasons. Aren't reasons part of the truth? Yes, they're just not all of it. He took a bite and chewed without tasting. I tried the meatloaf. It had the texture of a kitchen sponge, but the gravy was excellent. I wondered if it came from a can. Tell her about the second call, I said. You tell her. No. You just told me you spent years translating. That's what I'm apologizing for. He looked down. I don't know how to talk to her. Talk badly. Stay long enough to correct yourself. You make it sound simple. It won't be. Will you be there? If she wants me there. He nodded once. When the check came, Evan reached for it. I invited you, I said. You apologized. That doesn't make lunch your punishment. He took the check anyway. Outside, we stood between our vehicles while wind pushed old leaves along the curb. Is Mom going back to the doctor? He asked. She has follow-ups. Anything serious? I thought of the folder beside the recipe box, the procedure date printed on the first page, and the empty second line on the emergency contact form. You need to ask her, I said, his expression closed. You know, this new honesty thing feels a lot like withholding. It probably does. I drove home before I could soften it. Linda was at the kitchen table with Mara on speakerphone. The folder lay open in front of her. Mara was reading flight options aloud. I said you didn't have to come, Linda told her, and I said I'm deciding for myself. Linda saw me and pointed to the phone as if Mara were a difficult appliance. I sat across from her. Your brother doesn't know yet, Linda said into the phone. Mara went quiet. Then she asked, Do you want me to tell him? No. Do you want Dad to? No. Linda looked at me. I want to tell him myself. After the call, she closed the folder. I'm going to invite him Thursday. Here? Yes. For dinner? No. The word came quickly. Then she looked toward the recipe box. Coffee, she said. Coffee doesn't require anybody to pretend we're a family again. On Thursday, Linda made me remove the plate of store-bought cookies from the kitchen table. You said coffee, she reminded me. People have cookies with coffee. Then he'll think this is a visit. It is a visit, it's a conversation. Conversations can have cookies, not this one. I carried the plate into the pantry and ate one before closing the door. Evan arrived at 7 exactly. Not early enough to seem eager, not late enough to provide ammunition. He wore a blue button-down shirt and had loosened his tie in the car. He brought nothing. Linda noticed. I could tell because she looked at his empty hands and relaxed. Coffee? I asked. Yes, Linda said. You don't have to drink coffee if you don't want it. I want coffee. He drinks coffee, I told her. I know he drinks coffee. I'm giving him a choice. Evan looked between us. Do I need a lawyer? No, Linda said, but your father might need a muzzle. I poured 3 cups. We sat at the kitchen table. Linda took her usual chair. I sat beside her, leaving Evan across from us. That arrangement looked too much like an interview, so I moved to the end. Nobody touched the coffee. Evan looked toward the refrigerator. The medication schedule was still taped beside the calendar. The note about Sunday dinner remained crossed out in black ink. How are you feeling? He asked. Better? Any more dizziness? Not much. Good. Silence returned. Evan turned his cup by the handle. Linda watched him do it. Finally, he said, Dad told me I should tell you about the second call. Linda looked at me. I didn't tell him what to say, I said. You told me to talk badly and correct myself, Evan said. That sounds like your father, Linda replied. He took a breath. The first time the hospital called, I thought you had asked them to. I did. I thought you asked them because Dad wasn't answering and you wanted to scare one of us into doing something. They wanted consent. I know that now. Linda waited. Evan stared into his coffee. The second time, I thought maybe it was real. Her face did not move. I didn't answer because Dad had seen me ignore the first one. If I picked up, I'd be admitting I was wrong. Not answering also admitted that, Linda said. Not to me. He rubbed the side of the cup with his thumb. And then I asked about the roast because I wanted to change the subject. I wanted the whole thing to become ordinary again. You wanted me to become useful again. I wasn't thinking that. You already said that. I know. Linda looked down at the table. Evan continued. I made you sit there alone because I didn't want to look stupid in front of Dad. Cowardly, she said. He swallowed. Yes. The clock over the stove clicked into the next minute. It wasn't an elegant apology. There was no polished sentence for Linda to carry away and show herself later. He had brought her the ugliest part, and she didn't rush to make it presentable. Thank you for telling me, she said. Evan looked disappointed. What? Linda asked. Nothing. You expected more. I don't know what I expected. You expected me to say I understood. Do you? Yes. And I'm still hurt. He leaned back. This is what I mean. Understanding never changes anything with you. It changed the conversation. How? I believe you were ashamed instead of simply indifferent. That sounds like an improvement. It is. You don't sound improved. Linda put both palms around her cup. You want understanding to reduce the consequence, she said. Sometimes it only makes the injury more accurate. Evan's jaw tightened. You called me 6 times over indigestion. I did. You made me leave school because you were afraid. Yes. You called Tessa at work when I wouldn't answer. Yes. And now I'm supposed to act like none of that matters because this time you happen to be right? I was not right. I was in a hospital. You know what I mean. I do. I taught you that my fear was your responsibility. He stopped. Linda's voice lowered. I made every worry into a test. If you came, you loved me. If you didn't, you were choosing something over the family. Your father helped me do it. I did, I said. Evan glanced at me. So now everybody admits it after the one time I don't show up. No, Linda said. We admitted after the one time the cost became impossible to ignore. It was already costing me. You're right. His expression changed slightly. Linda continued, I am sorry. Not because my fear was fake. It wasn't. I'm sorry because I made you responsible for proving it mattered. Evan looked toward the dark kitchen window. Our reflections sat together in the glass. 3 people occupying one table and 3 separate versions of the past. Why didn't you ever say that before? He asked. Because I thought being afraid gave me the right to do anything that made me feel safer. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He nodded, but not in acceptance. More like he was storing the sentence somewhere to examine later. I drank my coffee. It had gone lukewarm. What happens now? Evan asked. Linda traced one finger along the rim of her cup. I don't know. Are Sunday dinners over? For now? Because of me? Because I don't know whether I cooked them out of love, habit, or fear that nobody would come without food. Evan looked wounded. We didn't only come for the food. When was the last time you came over without eating? He opened his mouth, then he closed it. I came after the hospital, with soup Tessa bought and a question about the roast. I apologized for that. Yes. You keep saying yes like it means no. It means the apology doesn't change the event. He pushed his cup away. Then what changes it? Nothing changes it. Something else has to happen after it. What? I don't know yet. The uncertainty bothered him more than anger would have. Anger came with tasks, flowers, soup, apologies. Uncertainty required him to remain present without knowing what would earn release. He looked at the recipe box on the counter. Did you really never write it down? Linda followed his eyes. 3 ingredients. That's it? That's what I wrote. So, all the rest is in your head. And my hands. He gave a small, sad laugh. That sounds like something you'd say to keep everybody dependent on you. Linda flinched. Evan saw it. I didn't mean, yes, you did, she said. And there may be some truth in it. I expected her to defend the card, the years, the kitchen itself. Instead, she stood and brought the recipe box to the table. She opened it and found the card. Chuck roast, onions, carrots. Evan read it. No temperature? No. How much liquid? I know what it should look like. How long? Until it's done. He turned the card over and found the blank side. I could never make this from here. No, Linda said. She returned the card to its section and closed the box. That isn't the same as me refusing to teach you. Are you refusing? Right now, yes. He nodded. For once, he didn't argue. Linda carried the box back to the counter. When she sat, her hand shook slightly against the chair. There's something else, she said. Evan went still. The monitor showed more rhythm episodes. Dr. Patel wants to do an ablation. When? Next month. Is that serious? It's a procedure on my heart. I know, but is it dangerous? All procedures have risks. Mom, he expects one night in the hospital. Evan looked at me. You'll be there? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I just did, Linda said. How long have you known? A week, and Mara knows? Yes. His face changed, of course. I asked her to be my secondary emergency contact. The silence after that had weight. You removed me. Yes. She lives 2,000 miles away. She answers. Linda regretted it as soon as she said it. I saw her eyes close briefly. Evan looked down at his hands. That was cruel, she said. I'm sorry. It was true. Both can happen. He pushed his chair back and stood. I thought the conversation was over. Then he walked to the sink, rinsed his untouched coffee cup, and put it in the dishwasher. He remained there with his back to us. Okay, he said. Linda waited. He turned around. I understand why you changed it. She looked surprised. I don't like it, he added, but I understand. Thank you. When is the procedure? I haven't decided whether I'm asking you to come. I didn't ask if you wanted me there. I asked when. In this family, dates have always been invitations. I'm trying to ask a question without agreeing to a role. Linda looked at him for a long moment. I'm not ready, she said. He nodded once. All right. He left 20 minutes later. There was no hug. At the door, he told Linda he hoped she slept well. She told him to drive carefully. It sounded ordinary enough that I almost trusted it. After his car left, I retrieved the cookies from the pantry. Linda took one. I thought this wasn't a visit. It wasn't. You're eating visit cookies. I survived a conversation. That's a separate food group. It should be. She ate half the cookie and set the rest down. I shouldn't have said, Mara answers. No, he didn't punish me for it. No, that almost made it worse. I know. Mara solved the question of the date 2 mornings later. She sent a message to the family thread instead of to us privately. Flight booked. Arriving on the 13th at 4:10. I'll rent a car so nobody needs to pick me up. Leaving the 17th unless Mom needs more time. The message remained on the screen for less than a minute before she deleted it. It was long enough. Evan called her. I knew because Mara called me immediately afterward. I messed up. What did you tell him? Nothing. He saw the date. And? He asked if the ablation was the 14th. What did you say? I said yes. Linda stood across the kitchen from me, watching my face. Mara continued. He has a presentation that morning, something his team has been preparing for 6 months. Did he say he couldn't come? He said Mom obviously didn't want him there. What did you say? That wasn't fair. Mara, I didn't confront him. What else? I told him she hadn't invited me either. Linda held out her hand for the phone. I gave it to her. I did invite you, she said. Mara went quiet. When I asked you to be my emergency contact, that was an invitation. I thought you said I could decide. You can. Then why can't Evan? Because he didn't ask me. He asked you. Linda listened, then closed her eyes. No, don't cancel your flight. We'll talk later. She ended the call. At noon, a message came from Evan, addressed only to me. I can't be there on the 14th. I have the presentation I told Mara about. Mom made it clear she doesn't want me there anyway. I showed Linda. She read it without touching the phone. I didn't ask him to come, she said. No. But he didn't ask me if I wanted him. No. Her hand moved to her chest, not from pain, just resting there. I waited for her to tell me what to write back. She didn't. For the first time in our family, the messenger had nothing to carry. I did not answer the message, neither did Linda. For the next several days, the silence sat inside the family thread beneath Mara's deleted flight information. Tessa sent one picture of her basil plant, because Linda had asked weeks earlier whether it survived the cold. Linda replied that it needed a larger pot. Evan said nothing. Was that advice or an assignment? I asked. Advice. How will she know? I didn't offer to repot it. You might be improving. Don't sound so pleased. The morning before the ablation, Linda packed and unpacked the same overnight bag twice. She included her blue cardigan, then removed it because the hospital would put her in a gown. She put it back because hospitals were cold. The paperback from her first stay went in, though she had never opened it. Her rings rested in the ceramic dish on the dresser. You don't need all that jewelry for a procedure, I said. I'm not wearing it. You're staring at it. I've been married longer than you if you count how much attention I've paid. I checked the folder again. Insurance card. Medication list. Arrival instructions. Nothing after midnight. Clear liquids until 4 in the morning, which seemed cruel to everyone involved. Do you think he'll come? Linda asked. I didn't pretend not to know whom she meant. I don't know. He said he couldn't. He said he had a presentation. That is a reason. Yes. She folded her cardigan into a tight blue square. I'm not asking him to choose. You already made it a choice by not asking. That makes no sense. It makes family sense. She looked at me. Is that a real category? It's where we keep most of our bad decisions. Mara arrived at 4:10, as promised, driving a rental car small enough that her suitcase filled the back seat. This time, she had brought one carry-on and no medical supplies. I figured Virginia has stores, she said, when Linda checked her luggage. We had stores the last time. I was panicking. You were prepared. I was prepared in a panicked way. Mara hugged her mother, then handed me the rental keys. You're not driving this, I said. You should know where they are. I know where my keys are. You left your phone in the truck. That was a phone, not keys. Frank, Linda said, accept the keys before she labels your pockets. Mara slept in her old room. I slept badly beside Linda, who claimed she slept well but answered every time I shifted. At 4:30, I gave up and went downstairs. Linda was already dressed. You weren't supposed to get up alone, I said. I walked downstairs. I didn't cross the Atlantic. You could have called me. You were awake. How did you know? You were breathing like an idling tractor. Mara came down 10 minutes later, wearing sweatpants, her hair tied up, and no makeup. She looked younger and more worried. None of us mentioned Evan. The roads were almost empty. Linda sat beside me with the folder on her lap. Mara sat in back and read the hospital instructions aloud, despite the fact that we had already followed them. Arrival at 5:30, she said. The clock says 5:18, Linda replied. I'm confirming. You confirmed in the driveway. I like knowing. You do come by it honestly, I said. Nobody laughed. Mercy General's parking garage glowed under fluorescent lights. I drove to the 3rd level, found a space near the elevator, and turned off the engine. Linda didn't move. Mara leaned forward between the seats. Mom? I'm fine. You don't have to be fine. I know. I'd still prefer it. She took one breath, then opened the door. The cardiac registration area was quiet except for a television showing morning weather. A storm was moving east, represented by an angry red shape over Tennessee. 3 other families sat scattered among the vinyl chairs. Evan was near the far wall. He wore dark pants, a sweater, and the same brown shoes he wore to work. A canvas bag rested at his feet. He stood when he saw us. Linda stopped walking. Mara whispered, I didn't tell him to come. I know, Linda said. Evan approached but didn't try to hug her. Hi, hello. His eyes moved over her face, the folder, the overnight bag on my shoulder. What about your presentation? She asked. Chris is doing it. You said you'd worked on it for 6 months. I did. Can he do it? Yes. Will it hurt you at work? Probably some. Linda looked at him. He didn't add anything. No speech about sacrifice. No reminder that she hadn't invited him. He stood there and let the answer remain unpleasant. You didn't have to come, she said. I know. It was the same thing she had told Mara. Coming from Evan, the answer sounded different. A receptionist called Linda's name. We moved toward the desk. Evan stayed where he was until Linda turned. Are you waiting out here? If that's okay? She nodded. It's okay. The nurse allowed one person to go back while Linda changed. Mara looked at me. You should, she said. I know. She didn't argue. In the preparation room, Linda changed into a gown and complained about the ties. A nurse placed an IV in her hand, attached leads to her chest, and asked questions from a computer. Emergency contact is your husband, Frank Mercer, she said. And secondary is Mara Mercer. Linda looked at me. That's correct. The nurse continued without ceremony. Evan's absence from the screen passed in less than a second. No alarm sounded. Nobody asked for an explanation. Linda watched the nurse type. "He came," she said, after the woman left. "Yes." "Do you think Mara told him?" She said she didn't. "Tessa?" "Maybe. I'm asking too many questions. You're wearing a paper gown. You're allowed." The anesthesiologist came in, then Dr. Patel. They explained the procedure again. A catheter would enter through a vein near her groin and travel to the heart. They would map the abnormal electrical pathway and treat the tissue causing the rhythm. Linda listened, asked whether he had slept, and made him promise not to let a fellow practice on her. Dr. Patel smiled. "I'll be there the entire time." "That wasn't my question. I will perform the critical portions." "What are the uncritical portions of being inside my heart?" He stopped smiling and answered more carefully. After he left, Linda said, "Nice man. You interrogated him. I improved his precision." A nurse arrived to take her back. I leaned over and kissed Linda. Her skin smelled like hospital soap. "I'll be here. You'd better be." She looked past me toward the doorway. "Can Evan come in for a minute?" I went to get him. He entered slowly. The sight of her beneath warmed blankets seemed to remove whatever he had prepared to say. "Hey, Mom, your father says those socks are unsafe." She lifted one foot. The hospital had given her gray socks with rubber strips. "They look safe. He says the rubber catches. I said it can catch." "That's what I said." Evan opened his canvas bag and pulled out a pair of soft blue socks with wide cuffs and rubber soles. "Tessa said you like these." Linda touched one. "They don't squeeze my ankles," she remembered. "She does." He put them at the foot of the bed. The nurse waited near the door. "I'm glad you came," Linda said. Evan nodded. "Me too." He stepped back rather than reaching for her. Linda reached first. She took his hand and held it for 3 seconds, maybe 4. Then the nurse released the brake on the bed. Evan followed me out. The procedure was supposed to take 2 hours. At 2 hours and 20 minutes, there had been no update. At 3 hours, Mara had consumed 2 coffees and reorganized the contents of her purse. "I should ask," she said. "They'll tell us." "What if they forgot?" "They don't forget a patient because her daughter stayed quiet. You don't know that." "I know hospitals don't operate by volume." Evan sat on my other side, elbows on his knees. His phone lay face up beside him. It had rung twice. The first time, he checked the screen, silenced it, and put it back down. The second time, he answered. "Hi, Chris." He listened. "No, I can't look at the slides right now." Another pause. "You know the material." He stood. "I'm at the hospital." He walked toward the windows, keeping his voice low. I watched him talk for several minutes. He pointed at nothing, paced once, and stopped himself from pacing again. Mara watched him too. "He came," she whispered. "Yes." "I didn't think he would. Neither did your mother." "Did you?" I tried not to decide. Evan ended the call and returned to his chair. "How's the presentation?" I asked. "Starts in 10 minutes. You could join remotely?" He looked at me. "Do you want me to?" "No. Then why suggest it?" Habit. He put the phone face down. At 3 hours and 36 minutes, Dr. Patel appeared. All 3 of us stood. He said the procedure had gone well. They had located the abnormal pathway, treated it, and restored a normal rhythm. Linda would need several hours lying flat before she could move, but there had been no complications. Mara began crying. I shook Dr. Patel's hand too long. Evan sat back down. He covered his face with both hands and remained that way until the doctor left. When he lowered them, his eyes were wet. "She's okay," I said. I heard. Mara sat beside him. She didn't hug him or say anything about hospital calls. She rested one hand briefly against his shoulder. We had to wait another hour before visiting. Mara went first. Linda was groggy and accused her of rearranging the hospital room. I went next. Linda asked the same 3 questions twice, then complained that I had answered them differently. Evan remained in the waiting room. "Do you want him?" I asked. Linda's eyes were closed. "He's been here?" "The whole time." "I know. Do you want him to come in?" She opened her eyes. "Yes." I found him standing near the vending machines, reading messages on his phone. He put it away when he saw me. "She's asking for you." He followed me back. Linda looked pale against the pillow. The blue socks Evan brought were on her feet. He noticed. "Those fit?" "Yes." "Good." He sat in the chair beside her bed. "How was the presentation?" she asked. I don't know yet. You should find out. Later. I'm not going anywhere. That's what they said. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Linda looked at him. He stared at the floor. I'm sorry, he said. That came out wrong. No, she replied. It came out frightened. He nodded. A monitor pulsed beside the bed, each green line returning evenly to the same place. I was frightened too, she said. I know. No reasons this time. He looked up. No reasons. She shifted her hand across the blanket, leaving it palm up between them. Evan put his hand in hers. He didn't apologize again. He didn't ask whether they were all right. He sat while the blood pressure cuff inflated and released, while a nurse checked the dressing near Linda's hip, while the light outside the window changed from white to gray. After an hour, Linda grew tired and closed her eyes. Evan did not take that as permission to leave. The nurse finally sent us home at 9. Mara and I left together. Evan stayed until the nurse repeated that Linda needed sleep and visiting hours were over. In the elevator, Mara leaned against the wall. Do we say something to him? About what? Coming. He knows he came. You know what I mean? Yes. Well, no. She frowned. Why? Because showing up shouldn't become another thing we make him perform. He gave up the presentation. That was his choice. You sound like Mom. I'm concerned about it. In the parking garage, Evan walked toward us with the canvas bag over his shoulder. I'll come back in the morning, he said. You don't have to, Mara replied. He looked at her. She winced. I know what you meant. What time? I asked. 7? They won't discharge her that early. I can still be here. All right. His car was on a different level. Before he turned toward the stairs, Mara said his name. He stopped. I'm sorry I used the hospital to make you look bad, she said. You didn't need my help. Evan studied her face, uncertain whether there was an insult hiding in the last sentence. Then he nodded. I'm sorry I said you left Mom for us to handle. I did leave. You moved. That's different. Sometimes. He put one hand in his pocket. I knew it would hurt you. I know. I'm sorry. Neither hugged. They had never been a hugging pair unless Linda was taking a photograph. Evan went to his car. Mara watched him leave. Was that progress? I think so. It felt terrible. That's often how you can tell. Evan was at the hospital before us the next morning. He had coffee for me, tea for Mara, and nothing for Linda because she was waiting to see whether she could tolerate breakfast. That was smart, Mara said. I asked the nurse's station. That was smarter. Mara. I'm not grading him. I'm noticing. You're noticing out loud. Evan handed me my coffee. She's always done that. He said it without heat. Mara looked offended anyway. Linda came home just after noon. I drove. Mara sat beside her in the back seat. Evan followed in his car. He carried the overnight bag upstairs while I helped Linda into the house, though she insisted she needed no help until the second step made her stop and breathe. Don't lift, I reminded her. I'm lifting myself. That counts. It shouldn't. Evan returned downstairs. What can I do? Linda looked around as if the house might provide an answer. Nothing. Okay. He didn't invent a task or ask again. He sat in the living room while I settled her on the sofa and Mara arranged pillows. After 10 minutes, Linda noticed him. You don't have to stay. I know. That answer is becoming irritating. I learned it from you. She gave him a tired smile. Tessa arrived with lunch and a bag of groceries. She kissed Linda's cheek, hugged Mara, and handed me a carton of eggs as though I worked there. I brought things that don't require cooking, she said. Linda inspected the bag from the sofa. Those peaches aren't ripe. They will be. Not when we need them. We don't need peaches. That makes them decorative. Tessa looked at Evan. She's better. Evan laughed. It startled all of us. He stayed most of the afternoon. He emptied the dishwasher without being asked, then put the mixing bowls in the wrong cabinet. Linda opened her mouth to correct him and stopped. I saw the effort. They go under the island, she said. I knew that, he replied. No, you didn't. No. He moved them. At 4, his phone rang. He looked at the screen. Work, he said. Linda's eyes followed him as he stepped onto the porch. He returned 6 minutes later. How did the presentation go? She asked. Good. Just good? The client liked it. Did Chris do your section? Yes. Did he do it well? Yes. Linda adjusted the blanket over her knees. Will it affect anything? Probably. How? Evan sat on the arm of the chair. The client asked for Chris to lead the next phase. Oh, it's fine. It isn't fine. It's not ideal. You worked for that. Yes. And now he gets it because you came here. He gets it because he did the presentation. I didn't ask you to come. I know. Then why did you? Evan looked toward the front window. Tessa stood in the kitchen with Mara, both of them pretending not to listen. Because you were having a procedure, he said. You could have gone to work. Yes. Do you want me to apologize? No. Then what am I supposed to do with that? Nothing. Linda looked frustrated. It cost you something. That doesn't make it a bill. The sentence quieted the room. I had spent years turning family effort into an invisible account. Who drove, who cooked, who called, who visited. We denied keeping score while remembering every number. Linda studied him. Thank you for coming, she said. You're welcome. Neither made it larger. Mara flew home 3 days later. At the airport, she gave Linda a long hug, then whispered something that made her laugh. What did she say? I asked when we were back in the car. She said she would call me Sunday. What's funny? She made me promise not to call Saturday and remind her. Can you do that? We'll find out. Linda put her phone in her purse as if distancing herself from temptation. Evan called the next Tuesday. He called me first. How's Mom? She has a phone. I know. Use it. I didn't know if she was resting. Ask her. You could just answer. You could too. He sighed, but the sigh lacked the old contempt. Fine. Linda's phone rang in the living room. I tried not to listen. That was difficult because she put him on speaker when her hand got tired. She told him about the dressing from the procedure, her blood pressure, a bruise on her leg, and a headache she believed was caused by the medication. The list went on long enough that I worried we were rebuilding the same road. Then Linda stopped herself. That's enough about my circulation, she said. How are you? Evan sounded almost suspicious. Fine. Work? Busy. Are you angry about the account? Yes. Do you blame me? A pause followed. No. You can. I know. That answer made her smile. He told her Chris had earned the client's confidence and that losing the lead was painful, but not catastrophic. Linda listened without offering to call anyone, fix anything, or explain why family should matter more. When the conversation ended, she stared at the phone. That was awkward, she said. It was. He didn't ask for anything. No. Maybe he forgot. Let him remember on his own. She looked at me. You enjoy being wise now. I've had more time since Sunday dinners stopped. They did not resume. At first, every Sunday morning felt like a canceled event. Linda wandered through the kitchen opening drawers. I waited for her to tell me what needed peeling or chopping. Around noon, we both became irritable for no obvious reason. The third Sunday, we went to a diner. The meatloaf was still bad, but Linda liked the lemon pie. We sat in a booth and watched families arrive in groups, pushing tables together and arguing about chairs. This is depressing, she said. You're eating pie. 2 things can happen. The next Sunday, we drove to a park by the river. Linda walked farther than Dr. Patel had required and sat on a bench when she got tired. On the way home, she said, I don't want to cook every week again. You don't have to. I might want to sometimes. Then do. That sounds selfish. It sounds like dinner. She looked out at the river disappearing behind the trees. I like them coming, I know. I also like knowing they had to. I know. I don't like how many things I know now. You keep saying that after somebody tells you something you didn't know. She turned toward me. I smiled. She hit my arm lightly. Evan's calls became regular without becoming scheduled. Sometimes he called Linda. Sometimes he called me and accepted being redirected. Once he called to ask whether I had a socket wrench, caught himself and said, Actually, I can buy one. You can borrow mine, I told him. Are you sure? It's a tool, not a boundary. He came over, borrowed the wrench, and stayed for coffee. He returned it the next day without needing a reminder. Linda offered him leftover soup. He said no. She looked hurt. I already ate, he explained. You can take it for tomorrow. I have food. All right. She put the container back in the refrigerator. After he left, she said, That felt rude. He told you no, I accepted. You did. I didn't like it. You don't have to enjoy every improvement. Tessa began coming by without acting as Evan's representative. She called first. Sometimes Linda said yes. Once she said she was tired and suggested another day. Tessa accepted the answer so easily that Linda spent 20 minutes wondering whether she had sounded unfriendly. She believed you, I said. What if I feel better later? Then you'll be a woman who declined coffee and survived. Tessa and Evan invited us to their townhouse for dinner. They ordered Thai food. Evan made no claim that it was homemade, and nobody asked me to repair anything. The cabinet above the refrigerator remained straight. I checked. Dad, Evan said, catching me looking. It's not going anywhere. That's what people say before cabinets fall. I used the long bolts. Good. At dinner, Tessa asked whether Linda wanted to host Memorial Day. The question was casual, but the table went quiet. Before Linda answered, Evan said, We haven't asked whether she wants to host anything. I just did, Tessa said. I mean, we shouldn't assume. I wasn't assuming. You bought hamburger buns. They were on sale. Linda looked between them. I don't want to host, she said. Okay, Tessa replied. Evan nodded. Nobody asked why. We ordered more Thai food for Memorial Day and ate at our house because Linda wanted the porch. Tessa brought salad. Evan brought drinks. I made hamburgers, which were easier than pot roast and less judgmental. No one took leftovers unless they were offered. Mara joined by video for 15 minutes. She and Evan spoke directly about a trip she was considering. Linda did not provide either of them with missing details. The dinner ended before dark. Afterward, Evan helped me carry chairs inside. Linda and Tessa sat at the kitchen table discussing the basil plant, which had survived its larger pot. Evan picked up the wooden recipe box from the counter. He turned it over in his hands. Careful, I said. It's not crystal. It's older than you. So is the refrigerator. The refrigerator can't hear you. He set the box down and opened it. The brass hinge gave its familiar squeak. Linda noticed from the table. What are you looking for? She asked. Nothing. That box is full of things. I mean, I'm not trying to steal anything. He flipped past desserts, soups, holiday foods. The 3-line pot roast card was in the meat section where Linda had returned it. He didn't remove it. I know this isn't the recipe, he said. Linda leaned back in her chair. No. Evan closed the box. I don't want you to send it to me. All right. And I don't want to make it for guests. Tessa watched him quietly. He put both hands on the lid. Would you teach me? Linda's face became unreadable. Not tonight, she said. I know. Not for a holiday. Okay. And not because you think learning it proves something. He looked at the box. I don't know how to prove anything to you. That may help. He nodded. Linda looked toward me, then at Tessa, then back to her son. Next Saturday, she said, 10 in the morning. Evan glanced at his phone as if checking a calendar, then stopped himself. 10 works, no guests. You buy the meat. His mouth moved into a small smile. Which kind? Linda stood. I'll meet you at the store. Evan was already in the meat department when we arrived. He stood in front of the chuck roasts with his hands in his jacket pockets, studying the packages as if one contained a hidden answer. His cart was empty except for onions, carrots, and a bottle of beef broth. You're early, Linda said. You said 10. It's 9:52. I didn't want you waiting. She looked at him, then at the meat. Which one would you choose? Evan pointed to the largest package. Why? More meat. That's not a reason. It's literally the reason. Linda picked up the roast and turned it over. The fat is all on one side. We could cut it off. We want the fat. I thought fat was bad. For cardiology, maybe. For pot roast, it pays rent. She returned the package and lifted another. See these white lines? Fat. Through the meat, not just around it. That keeps it from drying out. Evan took the package from her. This one is smaller. Tessa isn't coming. You said no guests. I meant it. I know. He put the roast in the cart. Linda inspected the onions and replaced 2 of them with larger ones. She made him exchange the baby carrots for whole carrots. They're the same vegetable, he said. They taste like the bag. The bag doesn't have a flavor. Then you've never eaten a bag. At the broth aisle, she put his carton back and chose another. What was wrong with that one? Too much sodium. You told Dad the meat needs salt. Salt should enter food because we put it there, not because a factory panicked. Evan glanced at me. Is she like this every time? She was worse before the ablation. I'm standing right here, Linda said. That's what makes it brave. She tried not to smile. At home, Evan placed his phone face up on the counter. The wooden recipe box sat beside it. Linda had not opened it. He washed his hands and rolled his sleeves above his elbows. Where do we start? Take the meat out. He removed the roast from its package and put it directly into the Dutch oven. Linda stared at it. What? Does it look dry? It's raw. That isn't what I asked. Evan lifted the roast. Pink liquid ran beneath it. It looks wet. Good. Dry it. Why? So it browns. It's going into broth. I sat at the table. Evan looked at me. You asked this too? Almost word for word. Linda handed him paper towels. He dried the meat, salted it, and turned it over. More, she said. That's a lot. It's 4 pounds. That's what you told Dad? She accused my cow of being athletic, I said. Your father selected a roast that had spent its life doing push-ups. I bought what you described. You bought a mammal with no visible weakness. Evan added more salt. He heated oil in the Dutch oven. Linda sat on a kitchen chair near the stove, close enough to see but far enough that she couldn't take over without making it obvious. When the oil shimmered, Evan lowered the roast into the pot. The meat hissed. He reached for the tongs almost immediately. Don't touch it, Linda said. It's burning. It's browning. How can you tell? By the sound, it sounds like burning. Burning gets sharper. He waited 5 seconds. Now? No. Do you use a timer? No. How long? Until it lets go. He tried the tongs. The roast clung to the pot. It's stuck. Then it hasn't let go. That feels circular. Cooking often is. His phone vibrated against the counter. He glanced at the screen but didn't pick it up. You can answer, Linda said. It's work. Work is allowed to call. I'll call back. I'm not testing you. I know. The phone stopped. He waited, tried the meat again, and this time it lifted without resistance. The brown side was dark and even. Oh, he said. Linda nodded. That's what ready feels like. He browned the other side, then the edges. His movements grew less anxious after the first turn. When the roast came out, Linda gave him a cutting board and the onions. How thin? Thin? You criticized Dad for that word, I learned. Evan sliced 1 onion. The pieces varied from translucent slivers to thick half-moons. Linda picked up the thickest piece. Will this cook at the same speed as this? She held up a thin one. No, then fix it. He did. The onions went into the pot with a pinch of salt. Evan stirred constantly. Leave them alone sometimes, Linda said. You told me not to let them burn. Not stirring and abandoning are different. I feel like this recipe is mostly you telling me not to do things. Most useful knowledges. I made coffee while they argued about onions. When I set a cup beside Linda, she took 1 sip and added cream. You made this weak. I didn't know how long we'd need to stay alert. It may be days. The onions softened, then turned gold. Linda stopped Evan when he reached for the broth. Not yet. They're brown. They're becoming brown. What's the difference? About 10 minutes. He sat beside her while the onions cooked. Neither spoke. The kitchen filled with a sweet, deep smell I recognized without ever having understood where it came from. Evan's phone vibrated again. This time, he picked it up. It's Tessa. Answer her, Linda said. He accepted the call. Hi. He listened. No, we're still on onions. Tessa said something that made him look at Linda. She wants to know whether you've yelled at me. I don't yell. Evan relayed that. Tessa's reply made him laugh. She says, volume isn't required. Linda held out her hand. Evan gave her the phone. He's doing fine, she told Tessa. His onions lack discipline, but they're teachable. She listened. No, you can't come for dinner. We said no guests. Another pause. I'm not trying to exclude you. I'm trying to make him learn without performing for an audience. Her eyes moved to Evan. Yes. I'll send him home with some, if there's enough. She ended the call and handed back the phone. You didn't ask me whether I wanted leftovers, Evan said. No. You assumed I did. Linda looked annoyed with herself. Do you want to take some to Tessa? If there's enough. There will be. Then yes. All right. The onions darkened. Evan added garlic, then broth, and a little red wine. He reached for the entire carton. Stop, Linda said. How much? Enough to come partway up the meat. What part? Less than halfway. Why not cover it? Because we're braising it, not losing it at sea. He returned the roast to the pot. The liquid rose just below the midpoint. Like that, like that. She added a sprig of thyme herself, then caught Evan watching. You could have told me to do that, I forgot. So the recipe has 4 ingredients. It has more than 4. The card has 3. The card is not the recipe. He put the lid on the Dutch oven. What temperature? 300. You do know a number. Don't get used to it. He placed the pot in the oven. For the first time that morning, nothing needed doing. We moved to the porch. Linda sat in the chair with the cushion. Evan took the step. I stayed near the door with my coffee. The trees had gone fully green. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower started and stopped, started again, then continued with the rough complaint of an engine that needed attention. Evan looked back through the screen door toward the kitchen. How do you know when to add the carrots? Time. You said time wasn't reliable. It isn't. So, you check the meat. When? Later. He shook his head. Linda smiled into her coffee. After a while, Evan said, Mara told me she's still the emergency contact. Linda's smile faded. She is. I'm not asking you to change it. All right? I thought about asking. I thought you might. But if you add me because I came to the procedure, then I'll spend the rest of my life wondering whether one bad day removes me again. Linda held her cup in both hands. I didn't remove you because of one bad day. I know. I removed you because I didn't trust you to answer. I know that too. A truck passed at the end of the street. Evan rubbed his palms together. Maybe leave Mara there. Linda looked at him. For now, he added, all right. He nodded. It was not forgiveness. It was something rarer in our family, a consequence nobody tried to negotiate. I will call you less, Linda said. That's not what I asked. I called too much. Sometimes, I made every call sound urgent. Yes, but if I call now, will you answer? If I can. Her mouth tightened at the qualification. Evan saw it. I'm not going to promise I'll answer every call for the rest of my life. I might be driving. I might be in a meeting. I might not hear it. I understand. But I won't decline because I've already decided you're being dramatic. Linda looked down at the coffee. That's fair. And if it's truly urgent, say that first. I thought the hospital number said it for me. It did. He let the words sit. I'm sorry, he said. Not that I should have answered. I'm sorry I saw where you were and decided I knew what you wanted before I knew what happened. Linda's eyes filled, but she didn't look away. I wanted access to the parts of you that made me feel cared for, he continued. I wanted the food and the calls when they were convenient, and the house being open whenever I showed up. Then I acted like needing anything from me was manipulation. The lawnmower stopped. Evan stared at the porch boards. I was angry for real reasons, he said. I used them for selfish ones. Linda set down her cup. I was afraid for real reasons, she said. I used them for selfish ones too. He looked up at her. Did you think I didn't love you? No. His face shifted with surprise. I thought you loved me in a way that cost you very little, she said. That hurt him. She let it. After a moment, he said, Sometimes I did. Linda nodded. I loved you in ways that kept you close, she replied. That wasn't always the same as loving you well. Neither looked at me, which was right. The old urge to explain one to the other rose in me anyway. I let it pass. Evan leaned back against the porch post. Are we okay? No, Linda said. He absorbed it without flinching. Then she added, But we're here. He nodded. Yeah, we should check the roast, she said. It wasn't an escape. It was simply time. The meat resisted the fork. Not ready, Linda said. How much longer? An hour, maybe more. Evan added the carrots and put the pot back in the oven. We played cards at the kitchen table while we waited. Linda won 3 games. Evan accused her of cheating. She told him cheating required secrecy. When the roast finally yielded beneath the fork, Evan lifted it onto a platter. He strained the cooking liquid, pressed the onions through, and returned everything to the pot. Now the gravy, Linda said. He reached for flour. Not yet. Reduce it. How long? She gave him a look. Right, he said. Until it's ready. The liquid simmered. He watched it instead of turning up the heat. When it coated the back of a spoon, Linda showed him how to taste it without burning his mouth. It needs something, he said. What? I don't know. Taste again. He did. Salt? Maybe. That isn't an answer, it's your gravy. He added a small pinch, stirred, and tasted. Better? Then stop. We ate at 6. The roast was tender, the carrots held their shape, and the onions had disappeared into a gravy darker than mine had been, and smoother than Evan's first attempt. It did not taste exactly like Linda's. He watched her take the first bite. She chewed. Well? He asked. It needs salt. His shoulders dropped. Then he saw the corner of her mouth. You're serious? A little. He reached for the shaker, stopped, and tasted his own food first. Then he added a small amount to the platter. Linda tasted again. Better, she said. Just better? It's your first roast. So? Make another one. After dinner, Evan washed the Dutch oven. Linda did not tell him how. I dried the plates. When he was ready to leave, Linda filled one container for Tessa and handed it to him. He took it with both hands. Thank you. You're welcome. At the door, he looked toward the kitchen. Should I write down what we did? If you want. I'm not sure I remember all of it. You won't. What if I get it wrong? Linda opened the door. You taste it, she said. Then you pay attention. Evan kissed her cheek. He hugged me, carried the container to his car, and drove away. Linda and I returned to the kitchen. The 3-line recipe card remained inside the closed wooden box. She didn't take it out. She didn't need to. There would be another Saturday.